The night loosens its hold on the grove, and the first pale line opens over the sand. Palm crowns stir with a dry whisper, and the well yard smells of damp stone and old dates. You stand at the last palms and lean over the low rim of the pool. Water sits dark and simple, cool as a kept promise. It shows a faint skin of iron where the bucket touched yesterday. You hold a rough neck of leather and lower the mouth to the surface. When the skin drinks, the strap lifts on your shoulder and gives a small leather creak that sounds like morning agreeing to begin. You guide the skin gently, one hand under, one hand at the tied mouth where a loop keeps its shape. The hide feels warm from sleep and then cools as the pool runs in. The weight grows and speaks up your arms, steady and sure. Your fingers taste a little iron where water splashes and runs along the knuckles. It is not sweet, but it is true. You turn the neck and seal it with a twist and a knot that you have tied so many times the fingers work before the mind wakes. Wet leather smells sharp and kind, like a barn door after rain. As you lift the filled skin to the shade, the strap rolls on your collarbone and gives that soft leather creak once more. A small sound that keeps time with your slow work. You fill another skin and set it upright against a cool stone. Drops run down its sides and leave pale trails on the dust. The pool's edge is slick with smooth moss. Your palm prints stay for a count and then fade. You carry the last empty, fold the mouth back, and sink it low. The pool answers in a hush that lives below words. A frog you never see moves in silt and is still again. You tie the stop with clean string, press your thumb to the wet knot, and feel the grain of the cord swell under pressure. The bundle waits, heavy and honest, and the strap over your shoulder gives the same mild leather creak, faithful as a house hinge. You check knots, settle packs, and pull your headcloth close. Cloth slides across hair and warms to your skin. The edge sits soft at your brow where salt once dried. You lift the broad belt and lay it flat across your hips, then feed the strap through the ring and draw it snug. The buckle smells like old tin. It tastes faintly of dust when your lip brushes it by mistake. In the yard, a donkey coughs and forgets it, and a sleepy child somewhere behind a wall stirs a pot and leaves a thin smoke of straw and chaff. Your pack straps meet their holes and answer with a little leather creak that says the day has begun to hold its shape. You lay out the morning tools so your hands can know each one again. Rope coiled like a sleeping snake, bowl for sand and crumbs, small clay cup, needle bound into a twist of cloth, spare thong for sandals, a pinch of oil in a stoppered vial. Wood of your walking staff feels smooth and warm, carrying the memory of your grip. You rub sand across your palm to clean the oil that rose from the leather, and the grit makes a mild rasp, and then dies. A dove in the next palm gives a low sound as if agreeing to keep a secret. You fold your cloak in thirds, dry side out, and set it under the pack to soften the first miles. The fold answers your touch with a sigh of cloth that rides under the soft, constant leather creak of the harness. You kneel by the skins and dress them for heat. A strip of damp cloth goes around each throat so the sun will be kinder. The cloth smells of soap and old water. It cools your knuckles where it touches. You tie the necks with short, neat knots and check the seams for a weep. One dark bead rises, then stops when you press it flat. Your tongue finds a little iron again. You wash it with a mouthful from the cup and return what you do not need to the jar. The palm shade feels like a room you borrowed and must leave clean. As you lift a skin to the pack frame, the strap shifts and offers that small leather creak, modest and exact, a good sign. You count the rations on a cloth by your knee. Bread, dry and clean. A little date paste wrapped in a leaf. A pinch of salt. 2 figs for luck. You hold a corner of bread to your tongue and let it soften with a sip. The taste is plain, the kind that keeps your thoughts level. Smoke from a cook fire farther off reaches you late and light, sweetened by a shaving of wood resin. You fold the parcel small and put it near the bowl where your hand will find it without search. The strap of the ration bag slips into place and gives a light leather creak, soft as a nod. You look up and see the line where green ends. The last plot holds small onions and dust. A low wall keeps goats from learning bad habits. Beyond, the ground opens into long, pale bands of hard sand and broken stone. Heat has not yet claimed them. The color still holds a little blue from night. You step to the yard edge and set a small stone on the top of the wall, a simple mark you like to leave, as if a piece of you wants to stand still for a while. The loops on your shoulders remember the weight and answer with a leather creak that says they are ready to carry. You sit on the low rim of the well and tend to your feet. The heels hold grit from yesterday, and you wash them with a handful of sand and a spoon of water. The mix smells like the inside of a clay jar after a storm. You rub a smear of oil across the skin so the straps will not burn. The oil is mild and nut bitter on your fingers. You knot the thong of your sandal flat so it will not raise a ridge, and you press the knot with your thumb until it learns to stay. Your toes test the strap and find it kind. When you rise, the harness on your shoulders settles again with that light leather creak, and you feel ready for the long, measured work of the track. The staff leans against the wall, a quiet friend. You lift it and feel the balance set into your palm, wood giving its smooth warmth back to you in thanks. You wrap the headcloth a shade tighter at your jaw and tuck the spare edge where it will not flap. It smells faintly of clean ash and sun. A small wind moves through the grove and shakes dust from the fronds. It settles on your skin like flour from a baker's table, easy to ignore. From the lane, a cartwheel rolls over a stone and gives a dull click that seems to say, "Go on." The strap along your chest gives the same mild leather creak, and you go on. You return to the pool for a last rinse and find the water not so cold now, only honest and calm. You hold your hands under and watch the little rings grow and fade on the surface. They catch a square of light and turn it into ripples on the stone. The smell is metal and green and well fed by old use. You pat your face with wet fingers and let the air dry it while you watch the mud settle from where your cuff touched the edge. A lizard drinks in quick jerks and holds still when your shadow moves. The skins wait in a tidy row, quiet as sealed jars. You shoulder the first 2, and the harness sings its brushed leather song, a low, friendly creak that stays near the ear. You mind the order of things because order is a kind of shade. Rope sits above bowl, bowl sits above cup, cup sits above knife, knife sits above cloth, cloth sits above fig, fig sits above bread, bread sits above cloak, cloak sits above skin, skin sits above back. This is not law, it is comfort. You tie a small knot on the outside of the pack to mark the side with the spare thong, and you press it once so you will trust it later. The stamp of your sandal leaves a dark oval in the damp patch by the well and fades while you watch. As you turn toward the gap in the wall, the strap voices its quiet leather creak and makes a line in the day that you can follow. You take one last thing from the grove. It is not fruit and not water. It is the smell of palms when night leaves them, green, dry, and a little sweet, like a room where baskets have sat for years and will sit for years more. You tuck that smell into the space between headcloth and hair and let it ride with you. The pack settles like a patient animal, Its weight is steady and fair. The donkey across the yard lowers its head and pulls a rope without hurry. The fiber strokes the post and makes a sound like a file on wood. The leather on your shoulder agrees with a soft creak, and the sound hints at the rhythm the day will want. You pass the last shade line and enter the light. Stone reflects up softly, white and clean. The little gardens keep their quiet behind you, and the palms go back to their private talk with wind and doves. Ahead, the wide sand holds no marks yet today. It waits without promise and without threat. Your tongue holds a memory of iron and a little bread. Your hands hold the staff and the strap. The leather creak becomes the small song of your going, low and even, as you take the first slow length of the white track and let the yard and its cool stones settle into the place behind your ribs where kept sounds live. The grove leans back into its own shade as you take the white track along the village edge. Mud walls hold the last cool of night. They smell of straw, smoke, and sun-baked clay that will warm soon. A little ash lies on a doorstep and lifts when a broom moves inside. Your pack sits firm across your shoulders, straps set where you want them. The skins touch your back with their slow, honest weight. From the sway of a small bell on a pack ahead, a faint bell tink slips into the air and settles there like a quiet promise you can follow. You pass a low gate where drying gourds hang like dull lamps. A clay jar leans near a trough and keeps a ring of damp on the ground. You brush your fingers along the wall to feel the cracked straw in the plaster. It is warm already, and the grit prints your skin. The headcloth rests close to your cheek and keeps the light kind. Dust tastes thin and chalky at the edge of your tongue. The bell tink goes with the rhythm of the bodies around you, not loud, only a small mark on time. A thin canal crosses the path, more shadow than water, and you lift a skirt of cloth to keep it clean. The earth smell there is sweet, a last breath of green. Lizards move like quick lines on the stones, then freeze and watch you pass. Far inside a doorway, someone coughs and goes silent. A goat nudges a rope and returns to chewing, rope grain rasping against wood in a way that almost soothes. The bell tink rises, pauses, and returns, like a drop from a slow eve. You walk past dry gardens where stalks lie cut and bound in small stacks. Straw shivers with the faintest wind, and with it comes a memory of threshing floors and plain bread, clean and rough. Your mouth wants a taste of that, and your hand knows where the pouch sits at your belt. Cloth there smells of wool and the oil you used to keep it soft. The pouch ties give when you pull them, and the bell tink sounds again, as if it approves and moves on. You take a piece of bread and hold it on your tongue until it yields. It is plain and kind. A date follows, and the syrup is sweet like the hush under palm shade. A thin grain of sand in the fruit shows where it touched the ground. Your teeth learn it and ignore it. You sip from the cup and wet the mouth without asking more. The jar's clay breath is cool and honest. Somewhere behind, a cartwheel rolls over a flat stone with a dry click, and the bell tink folds itself into that sound, and then out again. Color thins as you leave the gardens. The green fades to straw, then to weed, then to pale dust that takes light like chalk. Mud walls step back and become low mounds where old bricks sleep under sand. The ground turns from soft loam to firm crust, the kind your sandal likes. Your staff touches a patch of white stone and comes away warm. Salt rides the air from a distant well mouth where someone lifted water before dawn. Ahead, the bell tink gives a note that is almost silver, then quiets. You lean a little into the straps and settle the skins so they will not rub. Leather smells warm and sharp, and the coolness where it once held water stays near your shoulder a moment longer than you expect. The rope that binds the frame brushes your side and leaves a faint line in the linen, not unkind. A small wind presses the cloth against your ribs and then leaves, as if it only wanted to check that you are still moving. Dust touches the back of your throat, and you answer with a swallow that smooths it. The bell tink returns, tiny and exact, like a pin on a map you carry in your head. You pass a row of ovens risen from clay like half-buried moons. Their mouths are dark now, but the ash around them keeps a warm smell in the sun. A child's footprint marks a soft place and dries as you look. Wood stacked by a wall shows split faces that smell like resin and winter. A thin dog circles a shadow and lies down again with a long sigh that seems too big for its body. The bell tink threads through this quiet street and makes the emptiness feel looked after. A field of dry reeds knocks softly against a low fence, and the sound is like cloth brushed by a hand. Your wrist thong sits flat and behaves. The knot you pressed at the well holds. The sandals rasp on the hard crust and slide a little on loose dust, then find themselves again. Sun lifts a degree, and your cheek warms where cloth does not reach. The taste of bread stays kind in your mouth. The date leaves a sweet line at the edge of your teeth. The bell tink moves with you, a humble guide that asks nothing. You pull your headcloth a finger lower and tuck the corner where it will not wander. The weave scratches your ear in a way you accept. Your palm rests on the staff now and then, and the wood gives its smooth heat back to you. A wicker basket, forgotten by a door, smells of old grain and dry rope. It leans to one side, patient without owner. Smoke far off lifts straight, then bends as the day finds its wind. The bell tink sounds as the pack ahead sways to a small rut, and you feel your own strap answer with a mild shift. You take another piece of bread and a thin bite of date to keep the morning level. The pouch gives a soft whisper as cloth rubs cloth. Crumbs stick to your finger, and you pass them to your tongue. They taste of oven stone and salt from your skin. Your water skin stays quiet against your back. The damp cloth around its neck cools your spine through linen. In a yard, a woman sweeps, and dust drifts like flour under the wooden gate. The bell tink lines up with the slow sweep as if the two sounds were cousins. Mud walls end, and low scrub begins. Each plant holds gray on gray leaves that smell a little green if you crush one between finger and thumb. You do not. You keep the color intact by letting it be. The ground here is a plain of old marls and chipped stone that flake like stale bread when you press them. Light starts to fill every empty place without hurrying. The bell tink grows rarer as distance opens, and when it comes, it crosses the open like a bird and lands softly in your ear. You adjust the pack frame one slow notch and tie the rope tighter so weight sits lower. The knot is small, and your hands know it by feel. The fibers roughen your skin in a way that is not pain, only information. You shake the strap so it lies flat on the collar of your cloak. The leather warms to your neck and softens. The world has lost most of its edges, and what remains are tones of sand, straw, and stone. The bell tink approves with a quick hello and then rests. The last garden shows a small fig tree that has done its best under hard care. Its leaves hold dust the way a book holds quiet. A square of shade lies under it like a folded cloth. You do not stop there. You take the shape of that calm and keep it inside. A hen near a threshold lifts one foot and sets it down, then lets the sun do its slow work. Your tongue finds the last line of sweetness from the date and sets it aside as a good thought for later. The bell tink, kind and small, reminds you that later is made from many such thoughts. The lane opens onto a low rise where the wind tastes of stone. The smell of sun-baked clay fades, and the smell of salt dust begins, very faint. You look back without turning your body, only with your attention, and you feel how the green has narrowed to a thread tied to your shoulder. It will hold without pulling. You settle the staff under your palm again, and the wood says yes by being what it is. Ahead, the open waits without speaking. The bell tink gives one last gentle note as the pack ahead shifts over the lip of the rise, and that small sound hangs a moment like a ring in quiet air. You keep moving at the easy pace that belongs to the hour before heat. Inside the pouch, the bread lies neat, the date leaf folded, the cup upturned, the knife asleep. Outside, the rope on your frame is tidy. The skins are full and sealed. The cloak is dry side out and pressed flat under the pack. Your sandals hold the road and let it go. A sparrow lifts from a thorn, looks, and chooses to fly toward the gardens you have left. The bell tink fades behind the small wind and is replaced by your own softer sounds, cloth over cloth, leather over linen, the mild rasp of staff on crust. Each one quiet, each one part of the leaving, as color thins to dust and the day begins to widen. The little bell behind you grows faint, and a wider quiet takes its place as the long floor of sand opens. The morning holds a kind cool that rests on your skin like clean cloth. You move in long, easy lines while the light is soft, shoulders loose and steady. Cloth brushes your neck and settles there. The ground is cold under sandals, a thin chill that keeps the mind clear. Each stride makes a low sandal hush that slides under all other sounds and holds them gentle. You keep the staff light in your hand and let it find its own pause. Grain in the wood warms to your grip. The varnish of sweat and dust from many days gives it a smooth face. Air smells of straw left far behind and of plain salt from old ground. Your tongue carries a small line of date and bread, sweet and then simple. Your water skin rests quiet at your side, cool where the damp cloth touches your hip. Sandal hush, like the fold of a blanket drawn slowly. Dune faces ahead show blue shade, and then fade as the sun thinks about rising. The blue is thin, not sky yet, more like the last pocket of night hiding in curves. You lean into the climb without hurry, weight shared by strap and staff. Sand drifts from your toes and whispers back down the face. Cold from the night sits a hand under the top layer and lifts to you as you set your foot. Sandal hush keeps the slope friendly. The line of walkers spreads a little, then draws back. Cloth sways. Leather moves, rope tails flick and lie still. A mule gives one low sound and finds its calm again. Far to the side, a goat prints 2 marks, then pauses at a thorn and decides it is not worth the thorn. The air has no edge yet. It sits mild in your mouth, with only a trace of dust. Sandal hush gathers all of it into one slow thread, so the hour will not fray. You loosen the strap on your shoulder half a finger and tie it flat. The knot is small and known. It answers with a clean hold. The skin against your side stays cool, and the cord around its neck is damp and kind. You tilt the cup once and wet your lips, then seal it again and press the stopper firm. Clay carries a faint earth note that settles the tongue. Sandal hush says you kept measure and moves along. The ground changes grain where the wind cut it in the night. One patch is crust. One patch is sifted powder. One patch is like ground meal. Your sandals read it all and write nothing back. The cold lives lower now, thin but real, and it climbs into the leather to keep heat honest. Your shoulders lift and ease, the pack nodding as if it agrees. A small bird writes a short line in the air and closes its wings. Sandal hush lays a soft roof over the sound until it disappears. You watch the shade in the dune hollows pull back by slow finger widths. Where the shade leaves, the pale gold shows, a color like fresh bread cut open. You keep your headcloth close to your jaw so the wind cannot play with it. The edge scratches your ear and then learns to lie still. The smell here is empty in a good way, like a room swept and kept. Your staff touches a hard knob of stone and rings dull. Sandal hush absorbs that ring and makes it part of the floor. You hold the pace that saves water. Never quick, never slow enough to stiffen. The pack straps press their plain truth into your collarbones, then soften as the body warms. Your fingers test the thong at your wrist and let it be. You mark the land by small things. A tuft of grass that tried and lived, a shell of a beetle that shines like old wood, a white chip that tastes of salt when your tongue touches it for a joke you do not share. Sandal hush is the only laughter you need this hour. You pass a strip where wind combed the sand into ribs. Each rib is thin and clean, the spaces between smooth as lamp oil in a bowl. The soles glide, catch, and glide again, taking care to keep the ankle straight. Cold holds under these lines a little longer, like water kept in a deep jar. Your mouth feels frank and dry. Your hands feel light. The skin on your hip shifts and sets. The cord on its neck makes a tiny kiss against the leather strap. Sandal hush keeps count without numbers. A thin smell of ash drifts in from somewhere you cannot see. It might be from a night fire left careful and small. It meets the mild salt and lies down beside it. The taste on your tongue is clean clay and a memory of fig. Your shoulders know the pack now and stop speaking about it. In the far right, a cart sighs over a rise and falls quiet. Sandal hush threads through the silence and ties it safe. You reach another slope, higher than the last, and lean a little more. Sand takes your foot and returns it, never mean, only honest. You lift with the staff when the drift grows deep, then rest the staff and let your legs do the friendly work again. The blue shade at the face thins until it is a clear smoke, then nothing. Warmth steps forward by a finger, and you note it without letting it change your line. Sandal hush says carry, and you carry. The sky grows milk pale near the edge of the world. A low cloud wears a soft orange you can taste if you decide to taste it. It tastes like a dry rind, nothing sweet, only light. You let your eyes rest on a far ridge so they do not chase mirage. Your hands rub a little grit into the oar, no, the staff, out of habit. Then smile inside at the word that does not belong here and let it pass. Sandal hush is the same on sea or land. It belongs anywhere patience lives. Your mind clears and grows wide, matching the land. Thoughts settle like dust in a long room and do not need to be lifted. You list what is close. Rope on frame, bowl for sand, cup for water, cloth for shade, stone for truth, water for time, wood for help, dust for story, bread for strength. None of them argue. The skin sits calm. The damp at the cloth edge cools your side like a quiet hand. Sandal hush gives you a line to follow that requires no map. The air takes a small turn and carries a clean mineral taste from the east. It feels like stone bathed and set in sun. You adjust your cloth for it and keep moving in a curve the eye can barely see. A lark sends 3 notes and is done. Someone far behind lifts a strap and lets it fall, leather on leather. Then silence. Sandal hush makes those sounds belong to one thing and lets them fade without loss. You allow a mouthful from the cup and hold it in the mouth before you swallow. It is warm now, and it feels like good work more than like drink. You seal the cup and press the stopper. The jar gives a light squeak and stops. The cord leaves a line across your thumb that will fade by noon. The staff rings on a sun-bit stone and then finds sand again. Sandal hush answers both surfaces with the same patience. The dunes flatten to a basin where the ground is close-set grains and tiny shells that crack like thin ice. The sandals like this better. They roll and come down sure. Cold lives in the basin as well, a memory of night that was strong here. You breathe through your nose, slow and steady, so your mouth stays calm. The cloth at your neck lifts once and falls. Sandal hush lays down a path across the basin that anyone could find if they listened. You brush your sleeve across your cheek where a fine dust gathered. It smells faintly of old stone halls and empty jars. You do not mind it. It keeps the skin from shining. Your nails carry a line of pale grit that will wash away at evening. You shift the pack lighter with one small shrug and feel the strap learn the new place. The skin taps your side once as if to agree. Sandal hush makes that tap part of the hour. A beetle crosses your path, a bright back like polished seed. It slows in your shade and speeds up when you pass. It knows what it knows. You know what you know. The world accepts both without comment. A thin crack in the ground runs straight for 10 paces and then hides. You do not follow it with the eye. You trust the line of your own going. Sandal hush strokes the crack and smooths it closed behind you. The ridge before you is the last long one before the light grows strong. The face wears what is left of blue and keeps it like a secret. You settle the staff a little higher on the slope and let your feet keep their small angle. Sand moves like flour under a wooden spoon, shifting and then holding. Your calves learn the weight and share it with your back. The skin at your side presses into your hip like a soft bowl. Sandal hush moves ahead of you and shows where to place the next foot. At the crest, the wind is cooler, and your cloth flutters once, then stays. The view opens into wide pans of pale gold and gray that do not need names. You roll your shoulders forward and back and feel the joints thank you. The air tastes lighter here, not sweet, not bitter, just plain and good. A strand of hair finds your temple and rests. Sandal hush grows smaller across the top, then grows full again as you start down. The descent is easy, like pouring grain from a jar. Sand flows around the ankles and never argues. The staff keeps the line true. A little joy comes without reason. A warm, quiet thing like bread handed from a friend. You keep it by not gripping it. The skin at your hip rocks once and sleeps. Sandal hush spreads behind you like water smoothed by a wide hand. At the basin floor, you pause in your mind, though not with your feet, and let the cool of the morning show itself once more. The sun is still kind. The dunes still wear their last pale shade in thin seams. Your mouth tastes of clay and a clean salt that belongs to you alone. The pack rides close. The rope lies flat. The cloth holds the neck. The staff waits for your hand and gets it. Sandal hush moves with you into the next quiet, low and even. A soft line drawn across cold sand as the blue shade finally fades. The cool from the last dune lifts off your skin as the ground levels and quiets. You choose a small hollow where the wind has made a clean bowl, and you let the pack settle into it. Cloth brushes your neck and lies still. The world holds pale gold and thin blue, not yet hard, not yet loud. You kneel and slide the strap from your shoulder. Its line stays across your collarbone and then fades. Sand is cold under your knees, firm as a stone floor kept for morning. Your water skin rests quiet at your side, damp cloth around its neck cooling the hip through linen. Each stride is gone now, yet in your head a low sandal hush still moves and then settles like dust. You open the pouch and take out the small clay measure. It sits light in your palm, smooth where thumbs have taught it, rough at the rim where the potter left a thin ring. Clay smells like rain remembered, and the cup is cool even in the young sun. You lift the skin, tilt only a little, and watch the first narrow stream darken the cup, steady as a reed moving in small wind. You pour to the line and stop. You touch the cup to your lips. The taste is flat and a little bitter. It feels good all the same. When you tilt the rest back, 3 drops fall to the throat of the skin, one by one. Tiny drop count sounds, soft and exact. You hold the cup in both hands and let patience sit with you. Your mouth remembers salt from long work. Your tongue keeps a thin line of iron from yesterday's well. You give yourself time. You swallow once and wait before you ask again. The clay leaves a clean dust on your lip. You lick it away and find it kind. When you wash the rim with a thumb, 2 more drops slide from the cup's edge and find their home, each a small note in the same tiny drop count motif, counting a measure only you can hear. You share no words, yet you are not alone. A neighbor behind you shifts the frame on his back, leather rubs linen and stops. Someone farther off coughs once and is done. A mule in the line folds an ear, gives a low snort, and accepts the quiet. Sand moves like fine cloth in the light wind, just enough to say it is there. You keep your gaze low, cup between knees, skin at your side. Rope laid straight so it will not gather grit. The drops you gave back feel like a promise you kept to the road. Bread sits in cloth by your knee. You break off a small square and press it flat between fingers. Crumb is dry and clean. It smells of oven stone and a little smoke. You touch the cup to the bread and let one narrow line soak in. It softens without turning weak. You place it on your tongue and hold it until the dry turns to simple paste. A thread of sweetness from a date lifts the corner of the flavor and sets it down again. You rinse the cup with 1 thumb of water and let what you do not need return to the skin, drop by drop, the tiny drop count steady and mild. You check the laces at the skin's neck. Cord is damp and swells true under your thumb. You tie it flat so sun cannot tease it loose. The seam looks honest. No dark bead forms. You lift the skin and weigh it without strain, reading it the way a hand reads a good tool. Cloth around the throat holds a cool ring against your wrist. You set the skin down and listen. Far off, a cart groans like a wooden door in a warm room. Then the sound goes. Near your heel, a little fly circles twice and sits. The small drop count you made is gone. What remains is a hush that feels earned. You look to the ridge and take the light's measure. Dune faces show less blue now. Their shade climbs and thins like smoke. You fold your headcloth tighter across your jaw and tuck the spare edge where it will not wander. The edge of linen scratches, then learns your skin again. Your chest rises and falls slow. The air tastes plain and good. You place a pebble from your left pocket into your right as a quiet mark of time. The stone is cool and smooth. When it drops into its new place, it gives the softest tick against other pebbles, as calm as the cup's tiny drop count that taught you how to wait. You open the pouch once more, not for more drink, but to train your hands to the rule. The clay measure taps the rim of the skin with the gentlest kiss and then rests. You feel how much you want and how much you have, and you choose the smaller number because you will want later too. You press the stopper and turn it until leather and wood settle together. The scent that lifts is warm and animal with a clean thread of earth. One last thin drop hides on the lip and lets go. It falls back into the skin with that small, right sound, the tiny drop count that calls you to keep faith. You wipe the rim with the corner of your cloak and fold the cloth dry side out again. Sand grains caught in the hem whisper under your fingers and fall back to their wide floor. You brush your knees, feel the cold leave the skin, and stand with care so you do not spill the quiet inside you. The pack waits. The straps know their holes. The rope lies straight. You lean, lift, and carry the weight up to the shoulder. Leather warms where it meets linen. Before you turn toward the slope, you lift the cup once, only to thank its cool, simple rim. Then you tuck it away. Listen for the last echo of the tiny drop count in your mind, and let the sandal hush take hold again as you move on. The sandal hush from the cool hour thins and stretches as the light grows strong. The sun climbs, and the world brightens like a white bowl, round and bare, with no seam to hide in. The ground hardens from cold to warm under sandals. A slow change you feel through leather and skin. A pale shine settles on every grain of sand. Your scarf smells of wool and oil, clean and simple, and it holds your neck the way a good hand does. Thin wind moves the edge of your shawl in a quiet cloth rustle that lives close to your ear and keeps the hour slow. You settle the pack so weight lies broad across your back and not on one small place. The rope that binds the frame crosses your chest and feels like a calm rule you can accept. Wood of the staff warms until it seems to carry a little sun of its own, smooth where your palm has taught it to be patient. Your tongue holds dry dust, not cruel, only steady, like flour on a table waiting for water. The air tastes bright and empty. It smells of hot stone and the faint memory of straw left behind. The cloth rustle at your shoulder answers the wind and returns to rest. The line of land in front of you loosens and shivers. Mirage makes a silver smear ahead, a long, low mirror that shows nothing true. And then it goes. You do not chase it with your eyes. You let it pass like a trick told by a child who means no harm. Your mouth remembers the small clay cup and the measure you kept. Your hands remember the slow turn of the stopper and the drop that went home. The skin at your side rests quiet, cool where damp cloth kisses leather. The thin wind raises the corner of your shawl again, and the cloth rustle slips through the heat like a soft brush on linen. Shade is scarce now. Dune faces show no blue. Every slope gives back light. You pull the headcloth close under your jaw and tie the knot flat so it will not pinch later. The knot smells of oil from your fingers. It feels right, the kind of small right that steadies bigger things. You brush grit from your lip with the back of your hand and taste salt you left there. The staff touches a pale stone buried to the shoulder and finds its balance. The cloth rustle answers that touch. A quiet line. Then nothing. The ground spreads in wide sheets of crust. Then loose flour sand. Then crust again. Each patch a different kind of work for your feet. You place your weight kindly and keep the long, even pull that saves water. The sun lays heat along your forearms and the top of your foot. A dry, honest heat that makes the skin single-minded. The sky is a lid of white and pale blue. Far to your left, a neighbor clears a throat and waits for the sound to finish its small life. A pack animal flicks a tail and sets its bells silent. The shawl edge shifts again where wind strokes it. The cloth rustle a small ribbon of sound you can keep. You raise the staff for a moment, let your arm hang, then set the staff again into the little furrow your stride has taught the ground to accept. The leather of your sandal warms enough to print a faint smell, not bad, only present. A fly lands on your wrist, walks like a small weight over the cord, and decides you are not a meal. Your tongue runs across the grit in a back tooth and leaves it alone. The light turns the nearest grains into tiny, bright seeds, each with its own hard face. The cloth rustle at your shoulder is the softest answer to all that glare. When you allow a mouthful from the cup, you let it sit on your tongue so your mouth can remember calm. The taste is flat and a little bitter. It feels good all the same. You swallow once and feel the path of it like a thin line laid from lip to chest. You keep the cup still, then turn it for the last drop to slide back into the skin. The stopper meets leather with a faint rub, and the knot holds the seal. The shawl edge lifts, trembles, and settles. The cloth rustles small as a moth. The world brightens more, and the earth shows the simple colors of a poor wall: chalk, ash, old bone. Your shadow shrinks until it clings close and becomes only an outline under you. A bead of resin shows at a seam on your staff and smells sweet and sharp. You press it flat with a thumb and think of woods kept safe in a cool room. A lizard breaks from stillness, races for a tuft, and freezes again, its sides working quiet. Far behind, someone mutters and then stops, a short line of sound in a field with no walls. The cloth rustle draws that sound near for a moment and lets it go. There is no path to read now, only the wide open, yet the body keeps its road as if a rope were laid from you to a place you cannot see. The pack rides close. The frame presses its letter of law into your back. The law is not heavy. Your hands learn patience again from the hunger heat brings. You wait to sip, you wait to rest, you wait to speak, though there is nothing worth saying. Dust sits gentle in your nose. Stone breathes its slow warmth into your soles. The breeze lifts a fold and paints a line of cool along your neck. The cloth rustle signs that line. The sound as thin as a hair, and just as sure. Mirage comes back in a new shape, as if the ground has poured itself into a low river and then forgotten how to be water. At the edge, a darker band looks like palm shade, and then it loosens and becomes air again. You keep your eyes on a small, true thing, a pale pebble with a ring of red, a dead root like a drawn fish, a shard that shows clay under its sun. Your mouth holds dust that tastes like burnt bread crust. It is not unpleasant. You ease the strap a finger's width and tie it down. Wind worries the shawl and fails. The cloth rustle smiles without sound. You think of rooms with jars standing along a wall, each full, each sealed. The stone floor swept. The memory cools the inside of your head, the way shade cools water. You do not stay there. You carry the cool with you and give it to the hour. A small laugh almost comes when you notice how carefully you explain nothing to yourself. You keep that to your ribs and let it fade. The staff sets down, lifts, sets down, a wooden prayer with no words at all. The cloth rustle is the reply. Heat settles deeper, and your skin learns it the way a hand learns a tool. The scarf smells more of wool now, less of oil. It holds a trace of salt from your own work. Your jaw rests in the fold. The fold is soft in one place, rough in another. You know those textures as well as you know the map of your knuckles. A wagon far off crosses a hard patch and gives a single plank sound that comes and is gone. A goat on a ridge changes its mind and chooses shade you cannot see. The shawl edge moves at your cheek. The cloth rustle stays small and kind. You stop in your mind and not with your feet to test the hour. The world is bright, like a white bowl, and the inside of your chest is steady. You are not counting distance. You are keeping order. Rope flat, cup clean, bowl wrapped, cloth set, stone noted, water saved, wood trusted, dust allowed. The ground holds you up because that is its habit. The sky rests on the ground because that is its habit. You belong between them for now. A low grain of wind crosses the open and touches only what can move. The cloth rustle answers one quiet stroke, the same as before. The slope rises with no clear line where it began. Your feet carry, and the angle increases so slowly you do not need to say so. When the skin brushes your hip, you feel the cool ring where the damp cloth sits. The ring is smaller now, but it is there. Your tongue finds the place in your mouth where clay seems to live, and you accept it as spare food. The staff slides a finger in powder and comes back with a whisper you barely hear. The cloth rustle travels along the curve of your cheek and meets the light wind and then falls to rest. At the crest, the open spreads again, nearer to noon now. The horizon loses its shimmer for a breath length and then regains it. Silver at the seam, then plain, then silver. A long line of old thorn stands like a broken fence. Each root throws a shadow no longer than your hand. The smell there is faint ash, the kind that means a cooking fire days ago. A man behind you lifts a strap and lets it find its notch. Leather on wood gives a little cry and goes quiet. The cloth rustle attends to the sound and files it away with care. You allow the next measure from the cup and hold it, then swallow. It is not much. It is enough. You count to yourself by doing cup to lip, cup to skin, stopper to neck, cord to knot, knot to press, pouch to fold, fold to belt. This is how you do not lose your place. The pack reminds your shoulders that it is still a pack. The staff reminds your hand that it is still a staff. The earth reminds your sandals that it is still the earth. And the shawl edge, moved by thin wind, reminds your ear with the quiet cloth rustle that all of this is passing through you at the pace a person can carry. The heat leans closer, and the day opens its empty palm. You do not argue with it. You set your mind like a bowl so nothing spills. Wool and oil rest where they should. Dust tastes like old bread. Stone smells like sun. Water waits. Wood helps. Rope holds. Cloth shields. Sand receives. The mirage lays down and rises again, silver and then gone. The same kind of small theater heat always makes. The cloth rustle draws a final faint line across your cheek, a soft stitch in the wide white fabric, and the stitch holds as you move on, quiet and sure. The white bowl of day holds steady as you look for a quiet patch of ground with a little wind and no glare. You choose the lee of a low rise where sand lies flat and firm like a swept floor. You slide the pack down, let the straps rest, and kneel. Sand warms your palms. The warmth is clean and simple. Your scarf smells of wool and oil as you untie the roll. You set a pole and press its foot deep, turning it until it reaches the hard crust below. A slow fly buzz circles and drifts past, then fades under the great light like a thread pulled through cloth. You shake out the square of canvas and let it fall like a calm wave. The cloth feels rough at the edges and soft in the middle where hands have worn it thin. You hook one corner to the pole top with a loop you tied last winter. The knot knows you and holds. A second corner you weigh with a leather bag of sand. It sinks with a pleasing give. You string a short rope to a dead root and lean back until the line sings, then tie it flat. The air flows under the cloth and touches your face cool. Another slow fly buzz rises, circles the pole, and settles somewhere near your cup. You hang your cloak over the west edge to thicken the shade. The fold is heavy with dust and old smoke. When you brush it, a faint smell of bread ovens comes up and then goes away. You push the outer hem with your walking staff and lay stones along it so the wind will not teach it bad habits. The canvas takes the sun without argue. Its color turns from plain to bright, then back to plain within your small roof. Your skin cools where air moves. Sweat becomes a friend again. From the far side of the rise, a man coughs and stops. A mule blows once and forgets it. The fly buzz drifts, then thins, then returns like a slow ring. You open the pouch with careful fingers and take out bread wrapped in cloth. The crust is hard and clean. It smells like warm stone. You place a pinch of fig on it so your mouth will remember softness. Sweet meets dry and makes a small, kind taste that sits low and steady. You break the piece, hold it, and chew without hurry. Sand sticks to one corner. You brush it away and smile inside at how sand loves company. The canvas above murmurs in the wind, and the fly buzz draws a slow circle under it. Never loud, only present, like a watchman who nods but does not speak. You bring the small clay cup to the mouth of the skin and pour only to the carved line. The water is warm as a palm. The taste is flat and a little bitter. It feels good all the same. You touch it to the edge of bread and let it soften the crust. You swallow, then wait, then swallow again, giving time for the body to count without numbers. A drop clings to the cup's lip and falls back with a tiny kiss. On the sand near your knee, an ant tests your shadow and chooses another road. The slow fly buzz thickens, rests a moment on the rim of your bowl, and lifts off like a thin coin. You ease back on your heels and clean your sandals with a pinch of sand. Grit leaves the straps and shows the fine grain of leather you rubbed with oil last night. Your toes stretch against the edge of the sole. The tiny ache there says the work has meaning and ends when it should. You run the thong flat so it will not cut skin when the day grows heavy again. The staff lies beside you, wood warm and honest, its tip powdered from the forenoon climb. From the next shelter, a rope creaks once and falls quiet. The slow fly buzz passes your ear and fades into the brighter light toward the canvas edge. You take a small bowl and pour a thin skin of sand into it, then set your cup inside so the wind cannot knock it over. The sand holds the cup like a low hand. You fold your headcloth twice and tuck it behind your neck where the shade is deepest. The cloth smells faintly of ash and clean sweat. It cools as air flows across it. Your hands feel grain and seam and learn again where each tool sleeps in the pouch. The canvas roof makes a soft rasp as it shifts a finger width. The fly buzz returns, calm and lazy, and clicks once on the pole before it drifts to the dim space by your heel. You pull a thread and needle from the corner of a wrap and mend a small tear along the canvas hem. The thread drags through cloth and sings a dry, quiet line. You settle the stitch with your thumbnail. Dust floats in the shade like very fine flour. It coats your knuckles and turns the skin pale. You wipe your hands on the inside of the cloak where no one will care. Your tongue holds the last kind taste of fig. Your teeth find one tiny seed and let it be. From beyond the rise, a goat coughs in the heat and then goes back to silence. The slow fly buzz leans near, circles twice, and rests where the rope meets stone. You check the pole again and add a wedge of wood so it will not twist. The wedge smells like resin. It gives your thumb a pleasant stick. You press sand around the base and feel the warmth climb into your palm. The shade holds. The ground under you is firm but not hard. You shape it with your hand like a pillow. You lie on your side for a count, then roll to sit, because a long lie would make your legs slow later. The cup sits in its little nest and waits without asking. The fly buzz rises, combs the air under the canvas, and falls soft as if it learned manners from the heat. You write a short note in the dust with a stick, just the shape of a jar and a line for a measure, then smooth it with your palm. The act makes no law. It only clears the mind. You move a pebble from one pocket to the other, a quiet clock that does not care about the sun. Your throat is calm, your chest is easy. Your shoulders have settled in their work. You tie the pouch and slide it back under the shade line so it will not bake. Far away, a wheel finds a rut and grumbles. Near at hand, nothing complains. The slow fly buzz circles once more, wider now, then chooses the bright air and leaves you with stillness and the soft rub of canvas in a light wind. You fold the cloak, dry side out, and hang it again where the west glare will gather later. You pull the rope tighter by 2 fingers and take up the slack around the root. The knot sits clean and flat. It will listen when you ask it to let go. You rinse the cup with a thumb width of water and return what you do not need to the skin. Your hands smell of leather, fig, and dust. The mix is plain and good. You sit, you wait, and you watch the small roof hold a small noon. From time to time the wind moves, the canvas answers, and the slow fly buzz comes back to draw a faint ring beneath the cloth, then fades until even that little sound is only a soft idea in the shade. Shade holds under the small roof while the canvas lifts and settles in a slow, easy way. You slide the pack closer and lay out the little things you need. A bowl for sand, a strip of cloth, the skin, a thread, a needle, a small jar with oil. The ground is warm and grainy under your knees. It gives without argument. Your scarf smells of wool and old smoke. Your mouth keeps a thin dust that tastes like bread crust. You unlace your sandals and set them side by side, toes pointing to the darker patch of shade. Far off, a mule gives one plain sound and then rests. Near your ear, the canvas whispers, and for a moment the world is only cloth, sand, and time. You wash grit from your heels with a handful of sand and a breath of water. The sand makes a soft paste that feels honest against skin. It scrubs without anger. You pour the smallest line from the cup and watch it darken the pale bowl, then fall through your fingers and return to earth. Leather at your ankles smells like warm sun and hand oil. You loosen the thong so it will not bruise. The cool moves in with the shade and stays while the water dries clean. A slow fly crosses the edge of your cloth roof and fades. You wait until skin shows quiet color again. Not red, not white, only yours. You lean forward and rub the last grains away with the hem of your cloak. Dust turns the inside edge pale and leaves your heels smooth. Your fingers feel the ridge of bone and the soft line beside it. Both are hot from the day. You set them in the wind so air can flow, and the heat begins to climb out the way steam leaves a clean pot. A neighbor clears a throat behind the rise and says nothing more. A goat loses a stone and finds it again with a small clack. You take a mouthful from the cup, hold it, and swallow. The taste is flat and true, and it carries the morning's patience into noon. You open the little jar and touch oil to your fingers. It smells of olive and a hint of resin. It loosens under your thumb, like wax left in the sun. You work it into heels and along the strap line where leather likes to argue. Skin smells like oil and dust as the mix finds its way. It feels good, not rich, only right. Linen wraps feel kind against hot bone when you wind a narrow band once, then twice. The fabric's weave runs under your nail, rough then smooth, and lies down where you tell it. Wind moves under the canvas and cools the shine on your ankles. You listen to that cool with your whole body. You bring the sandal closer to see where the strap has stretched. A hole has grown long. The thong has learned the easy path, and you must teach it again. You thread the needle with the short end first, so it will not fray, and the point bites the leather in small, honest bites. When you draw the line through, the thread gives a soft thread pull, a little hush in the shade, and you feel it seat in the new place. You pass it back, cross the stitch, tie it flat so it will not lift. The knot lies like a pressed seed. You stroke the seam once, the oil from your hand taking the last fuzz away. The soft thread pull speaks again as you snug the line and rest. You check the second sandal and find a smaller tear near the side. The needle slips through there too, easy at first, then stubborn where the old salt made the leather hard. You lean, you wait, then you push, and the point goes, steady and slow. The thread answers with the same soft thread pull motif, quiet and faithful, as if counting down a private hour. A lizard scratches the sand just beyond your cloth and becomes still. The sound is a quick idea and then nothing. Your tongue tastes fig that is not there, a sweet echo from the last meal. The stitch holds. You press it flat with the back of the needle and let the seam learn to be new. You cut a small pad from the torn corner of a linen wrap and set it under the strap where the bone would rub. Cloth holds a faint scent of ash and clean sweat. It feels cool at first and then warm, the way a friend's hand does when it stays. You lace the thong through the new hole, slow and careful, so it will not fray the edge you made. Your fingers move like they did in winter by the lamp, and the habit calms you. When you draw the tail snug, there is that soft thread pull again, a thin note in the hot noon. You tie it flat. The knot makes no show, it is there to be forgotten. You turn to the heel loop and add 2 more little stitches to guide the strap back into line. The needle lifts and lands, and each time the thread answers with its quiet pull, soft as a moth at a screen. You think, not unkindly, that your feet complain like old friends who still walk beside you. The laugh lives low in your chest and goes nowhere. You press oil along the new work and feel the grain shift under your thumb. It smooths like a board sanded with fine dust. Far away, a cart finds a rut and gives one plank sigh. The canvas edge answers the wind and lets go. You test the fit. You slide your foot back into the sandal and lift your heel to read the strap. It lies flat. It does not bite. The pad sits where it must, and the linen wrap holds the warmth steady without keeping the heat. You rock the foot left and right, and the leather says yes in a language it learned from your steps. You do the same with the other foot and find the same quiet answer. You adjust the thong and smooth the knot. The thread gives one last soft thread pull, as if to say the job is done. You wash your hands with a handful of sand and a breath of water and rub them dry on the inside of the cloak. The smell is oil, dust, and a faint sweet from fig. The mix is honest and simple. You fold the cloth strip and set it back in the pouch with the needle and thread coiled small. The coil looks like a little well. You press it with a fingertip so it will not tangle. You pour a finger of water to the cup and touch it to your lips. Your mouth thanks you by being quiet. A man at the edge of the camp hums a low line and stops. The canvas lifts and settles. Your shade holds. You take another small piece of bread, dip it on the wet rim of the cup, and let it rest on your tongue. It turns soft without losing itself. You close your eyes a moment to listen to the wind move under the cloth. The air tastes of hot stone and a far smoke you cannot see. It sits mild and does not ask for more from you. You plan the next hours with your hands, not your mind. Straps checked, wraps smooth, skin on your side sealed tight, rope coiled and ready, bowl emptied, staff near. The list makes a path where there is no path. Somewhere behind the rise, a pack rope answers a small gust with a slow rub, then falls quiet. You gather your things with the care that keeps weight from growing cruel. The bowl gets turned out. The sand runs like grain and makes a soft sound as it meets itself. You slip the cup into its cloth and set it deep in the pouch so Sun will forget it. You wipe the jar's lip and push the lid firm. A thin ring of oil holds the light and then disappears into the wood. Your sandals now hold your feet the way a good rule holds a town, close and without pride. You lift your ankles once, feel the clean hold, and let them down. The soft thread pull lives only in memory now, a quiet promise under the canvas. You loosen the pole's knot, lower the cloth, and shake the dust from its hem. The cloth releases a faint cloud that smells like old rooms and swept floors. You fold it along the creases your hands trust and tie it with a short string so the wind cannot change its mind. The ground where the shade lay is cooler by a little, and you touch it as if to thank it. Your heel prints are deep and smooth. Your fixed straps feel ready to write their new lines. A fly makes one last slow loop in the bright air, and then is gone. In the calm that follows, the work sits light. You lift the pack, settle it, and feel how the frame now rests where you asked it to rest. The rope crosses your chest without bite. The knot you taught the thong lies quiet. The pad under the strap finds the bone and cares for it. You take one last look at your little floor, the clean place where the bowl sat, the darker ring where a few drops found sand, the fine drift along the cloak's edge. You lay the staff into your palm and read its grain like an old story. Canvas smell, oil touch, clean dust, a thread laid flat. These are the marks of noon. When you step from shade into white light, the sandals go with you in a kind way, and the soft thread pull you heard not long ago seems to settle in the leather itself. A small, steady quiet that keeps its own time as you move on. The shade you made is folded and tied, and the white of day opens again. You settle the pack so it lies wide and fair on your back. Your sandals find the firm skin of the ground, and the air sits bright and still. You follow pale stone lines across the wide floor, the raised ribs that spare your legs. The staff in your hand is smooth and warm. The wood feels close to your palm. When you squeeze and touch the thumb to your lip, it tastes of salt where your fingers rest. The staff meets sand and stone with a gentle staff thunk that sits low in the heat and keeps company. The lines of pale stone run like old paths no one owns. They hold you just above the loose flower of drifted sand, and you trust their thin promise. Your hand slides on the shaft until it finds the easy place your skin has made. Resin lives there with sweat and dust, and the smell is sweet and simple. Air smells thin and far, as if it came a long way to reach you. The sun lies flat on your shoulders and teaches your neck to bow a little. The staff thunk changes when you touch crust or pebble, a small note, then another, soft and true. Rope crosses your chest and holds your day together. It presses a clean rule into your ribs, then softens as you warm. The pack frame learns your back in the old way, and the weight becomes a part of you, not a guest. Sand under the sole is warm now and steady. Your heel prints are clear and calm. A shimmer wavers at the edge of your eye and becomes nothing. The staff is a steady friend, wood against earth, and the gentle staff thunk marks a path your eyes do not need to see. Between ridges, the ground dips into low, bright pans where powder waits to take your ankle. You do not fight them. You climb with patience to the next line of stone. The pale rib lifts you again, and the work eases. Wool at your jaw smells of oil and a little smoke. It sets a small cool on your throat. Far to the right, a neighbor coughs once and holds the sound quiet. A rope on a load animal answers the light wind with a slow rub, then stops. The staff thunk goes on, small, regular, kind. You keep the clay cup sealed and let the thought of water be enough for now. Your tongue holds a fine powder of salt and dust. It belongs there until evening. You run a finger under the strap on your shoulder so the leather will not write a hard line. The knot lies neat against your collarbone and minds its job. A little grit lives at the corner of your mouth. You leave it alone. The staff finds a buried stone and makes a deeper note before it returns to sand. The staff thunk steady as a slow drum you can carry. Here the stone is chipped like bread crust. There it is round like a worn bowl. You read it with your sandals and write nothing back. A tiny lizard lifts from the shadow of a thorn and freezes when you pass. Its skin shines like a clean seed. Its smell is the same as the land, which is to say, it is near to nothing. The wind brings a faint ash from a far fire and sets it down on the tongue. You place the staff lightly where stone shows, and listen for the gentle staff thunk to tell you what the ground will allow. A thin cloud sketches itself across the sun and gives you a small gift of gray. The cool is little, but it reaches your cheek like a wet cloth pressed to a hot jar. You straighten your headcloth, pull the spare edge, and tie it flat so it will not wander. The scarf holds a memory of the midday canvas, dust and oil, and a trace of bread smell. Air moves under the cloth. The skin there forgets to sting. The staff thunk grows softer on the clouded light, then wakes again when the bright returns. You mark your road by small choices, ridge to ridge, pebble to pebble, thorn to thorn. A white chip with a red ring becomes your next task. A short root that looks like a bent nail becomes the one after that. You do not name hours, you count by acts. The rope around the water skin touches your hip with a gentle weight and then swings away. Behind you, someone hums a line too low to carry and lets it fade. The staff thunk answers the hum and moves ahead of you, patient and low, and heat thickens, and you trim your pace until it fits the day. Hands loosen on the wood and then close again, holding, not clinging. You rub a dark bead of resin flat with your thumb. It smells like a cool room and old wheels. The taste of salt sits at the edge of your lip. You press it with your tongue and set it back in your mouth as if it were food. Your shoulders speak in a quiet way, and you agree without words. The staff meets a line of tight stones and gives a run of gentle staff thunks, like notes on a small drum. The floor of land lifts so slowly that only your ankles know. You lean as needed and keep the even pull that saves you. The next ridge comes, and with it a skim of shade under a low rock, no bigger than your hand. You do not need it. You note it and pass. A beetle crosses like a black bead rolled by an unseen string. When your shadow falls on it, It waits, then goes. The staff thunk grows faint in a patch of sifted sand and returns when stone returns, a calm pattern that keeps your mind smooth. You think of a room with jars along a wall, each sealed, each full, the floor clean as a table. The thought cools the inside and makes space for quiet. You let it sit and then let it go, because the land asks you to watch your feet and your line. The far sky holds a light silver seam that is not water, but air. Your mouth tastes of clay and iron where the cup touched it at noon. A small bell, far behind, sways once and goes still. The staff thunk keeps time you do not have to count. As the day bends toward its late hours, the wide floor seems wider and yet easier. The pale stone lines lead you without promise and without lie. You accept their guide and give back only care. Wool at your jaw is salt stiff, and the smell is your own. The wind is thin and honest. It carries nothing and asks for nothing. The staff meets sand and stone with the same gentle staff thunk it has kept since you left shade, and that sound holds as the light turns softer, as if it were sewing the last edge of day to the next ridge waiting in the quiet. Night gathers in quietly after the long white of day, and your line of pale ridges lets go of its shine. You wait for the ground to cool and for the sky to show its first small lights. Cloth settles back onto your shoulders. Rope lies smooth across your chest. You lift the pack, seat it wide, and let your shoulders learn it again. You walk at night to save water, and the sand under your sandals turns from warm to cool as if a hand had moved across it. The air carries a clean edge and smells thin and far, like mountain wind that forgot its stones. Beside your hip, the half-full skin gives a faint water slosh, patient and low. The sky is a black cloth with slow fire. Stars sit steady. Slow ones drift like embers no one will stamp out. You pick a line between two bright points as if you were threading a needle, and you keep it. Leather warms to your grip and stays steady. The staff is smooth from oil and time, and the salt from your fingers puts a small taste on your lip when you shift your hand. Cloth at your jaw is kind now. Wool holds just enough heat to keep the night's cold honest. The sand clicks at a shell and becomes soft again. The water slosh goes with you, a small bowl of sound that lives at your side. You pass old prints where the day left its story. Hoof, wheel, heel, and then a smooth sweep where wind rode over all of them. A neighbor behind you coughs once, and the sound folds back into the dark. Far to your left, a pack rope rubs wood and stops, as if the animal meant to make a point and then forgot. You taste clay where the cup touched you at noon. A grain of salt sits on your lower lip and waits to be found. The staff finds hard earth now and then and gives a quiet knock, but you keep your ear turned to the gentler sign. The water slosh answers the quiet with its slow, cool voice. You follow pale stone lines even here, where their lighter skins show like bones under skin. They guide you across the wide floor without words. The wind moves in low streams between the ridges and brings a hint of ash from some far cook fire you will never see. Linen wraps at your ankles hold a small warmth. They press the memory of the day into your skin and then let it go. You press the strap at your shoulder with 2 fingers and pull it into a better place. The leather shifts and lies flat. The night has a weight of its own, soft and even. The water slosh keeps time, not with numbers, but with a roundness that eases the hour. You lift your headcloth and set it against the back of your neck so cool air can flow. Dust has less sting now. It tastes like old bread and clean stone. Your tongue rests easy. Your mouth waits for your rule. You touch the stopper of the skin, but you do not open it. The thought of water asks gently and then steps back. A thin cloud crosses the star road and leaves again. The ground brightens and dims with it, like a chest rising under a blanket. The water slosh moves once when you shift your stride to pass a small drift, then settles into the same mild circle beside your hip. You find the shallow ruts of an old cart and walk where its wheels once pressed the crust firm. The sand here is thin and polite. It gives what you ask and returns to shape as soon as you leave. A beetle goes about its small plan, rolling a dark ball with a stubborn patience that feels like kin. Your sandals hold your feet the way new stitches promised. The pad under the strap keeps the hot edge from your bone. The staff leans and straightens, and the grain under your palm feels like close friends gathered in a small room. The night carries a faint scent of animal and lanolin from the cloak slung over a nearby frame. The water slosh remains soft and round. You pause long enough to slide a pebble from one pocket to the other, a quiet clock that knows nothing of sun. You do not sit. You do not want cold to take your joints. You bend, touch the strap on your instep, and find it neat. The rope that holds the frame to the pack hums once in the light wind and then forgets its own sound. You take a small mouthful of bread and soak it with one drip from the cup, just enough to turn it kind. The taste is plain and good. A fig seed from noon cracks gently in a back tooth. When you lift the skin and set it down again, the water slosh gives its soft circle of sound and rests. You walk again, and the earth under you feels like a cool room that someone swept well. Your shoulders pull and release. Your hips carry easy. The staff's tip says almost nothing now on the powder, and your ear makes room for more of the sky. The stars hold like nails in a black board. You choose one far point and let it lead you toward a low notch in a ridge. Somewhere behind, a man hums low, one line, then no more. A small owl crosses without sound. Only the air's shape tells you it was there. The water slosh near your hip keeps its small, even circle, close and sure. A faint silver lies along the far horizon. It is not yet day. It is the shy thought of day. You feel a cooler pull on your face and let your jaw unclench. Wool at your neck smells of oil and smoke. It gives off a little of the warmth it held at noon. You slide the staff across your palms to ease the long grip, then set it again. Your hands are rough, but the oil from the jar did its work. Your skin does not crack. When your fingers brush the skin's leather, they pick up its animal smell, honest and old. The water slosh answers the touch with one quiet circle, and then becomes part of your stride again. You pass a low patch where the land has gathered pebble and shell like a bowl catching rain. Each piece clicks against its neighbor as your weight asks it to move. You place your feet kindly and give them time. The air tastes sweet now, cooled by the hour and rounded by the dark. A pack animal ahead lets go a slow sigh and lifts its head. The brass ring at its strap gives a tiny sound and rests. Your cup, deep in its cloth, taps the pouch with a very faint knock you hardly notice. The sound you do notice, the one that matters, is the water slosh, faithful and mild. You let yourself think of a room again, not the one with jars, but a small place with a lamp, a bowl, and a low bed. The lamp's warm ring would paint the wall. The bowl would smell of clean grain. The low bed would take the shape of your back and keep it. The thought is not a promise. It is a tool you hold lightly and set down again. The night accepts it. Stone under your sandals turns cool as river shade. The staff's wood tastes of salt when you adjust your grip and lay your tongue at the base of your thumb. The water slosh gives one slight answer and then goes back to its measured circle. A man to your right speaks to no one, only moving sound in his mouth to keep it from drying. The sound carries and vanishes without meaning to you. A dog somewhere far off canters along the edge of the group and returns to its place. Its nails click once on a stone, then sand swallows the rest. The wind rises a little and falls. It does not cut. It only moves. Your scarf's edge flutters at your cheek and settles. The direction you chose on the sky remains in front of you, near the notch, near the hope of cooler dawn. The water slosh stays at your hip, a small round heart of the work. You allow yourself a drink, measured and patient. The stopper turns with a faint rub. The leather sighs as if it were relieved to be noticed. You pour to the cup's mark and hold it in your mouth to ease the lines there. The taste is flat and true. It is more scent than flavor, like rain through an open door. You swallow, close the skin, and let what is left find its way back with a small kiss of clay on the rim. You feel the pull of water over the back of your tongue and down, and you know it will make the next stretch softer. The water slosh answers as you set the skin to your side, gentle and good. The night thins so slowly that your eye cannot say when it began. Black softens to a deep blue. Dark stone becomes gray. The wide floor turns from unseen to nearly seen. You hold the staff in your other hand to give your first hand rest. Both feel the warmth of wood and the clean taste of salt left by your work. Cloth rubs softly at your jaw. The knot sits where you put it hours ago and does not complain. A cart somewhere finds a hollow and gives a low wooden sound. A goat, small in the distance, changes places and goes still again. The water slosh near your hip is lighter now after your careful sip, yet it keeps the same circle, calm and even. You move through the last heavy part of the night as if through a cool room. The sky's slow fire fades to a cold blue that means kindness is near. Your feet write their simple lines on the sand and leave them without looking back. The staff's tip meets a patch of firm crust and tells you the ground is ready to hold more. Ahead, the notch grows, and you taste a little iron in the air where stone waits to warm. The straps press in the right places. The stitches you laid at noon do their work. The water slosh hums once, then once again, softer than before. When the first thin edge of light shows, you do not hurry. You fold the dark behind you like a cloak and carry its cool with you. The stars go out one by one, the way quiet lamps do when a house is going to rest. Your mouth feels clean. Your hands feel sure. Your eyes feel wide but not eager. You let the line from ridge to ridge continue inside you where no one can see it. The air still smells thin and far, and as you walk into the early color, the sound beside your hip, that faint water slosh that has kept you company through the long cool, holds its last small ring and falls into the hush of the waking land. The hush that held the last of night stays with you as pale blue opens on the wide floor. You move toward a long white channel that threads the land like a quiet scar. Its bed is crusted with salt and fine powder. It glows a little under the early light. You follow it to a slow bend, where the banks rise one hand higher. Sand there is tight and pale as clay. You draw the staff point along the curve and feel a dull give. You set the pack down where shadow pools, and the straps relax. In this quiet, even the leather seems to rest and listen. You kneel and press your palm to the surface. It holds, then hollows. Under the crust is cold, almost kind. You smell mud, sour and safe, like a cellar that kept grain in a wet season. Your fingers come away gray with silt. It lifts with a soft stick and then lets go. You mark a small circle with the heel of your hand and clear the top skin aside. The first shape of the hole is the size of your bowl, then it grows. Your shoulders ease at the work. The ground lets you have a little bit at a time. You use the staff to cut a clean edge on the upstream side so sand will not tumble back. The stick feels strong. The grain sits warm against your palm. You lean, you lift, you settle the loosened sand to the tail of the bend. A beetle, sleepy from cool, turns in a slow circle and decides to be elsewhere. From behind the far bank comes one short cough, friendly and spent. Then silence again. The clay smells grow a touch sweeter as the hole deepens. The white crust around it looks like old salt on a bowl after a soup is cooled. You listen for nothing, and nothing arrives. And then a small sound begins. It is not rush or ripple. It is less than a drip. It is the tiny, patient knock of a thread finding its way through tight earth. The first slow trickle reaches your palm. It trails grit across your skin, the way a file leaves dust while mending a nail. You hold still and let it build. It tastes of stone and a thin iron when your tongue touches what remains on your thumb. In the hush, the tiny trickle tick answers the work, a small clock without haste. You widen the pool by a finger's width and line the near side with flat chips you find under the crust. They make a neat wall that keeps the hole honest. Silt lifts in gray threads and turns the water dull. You wait. You do not need to move. The land moves for you. A low breeze brings a smear of ash you cannot see. It goes past and leaves only clean air. You watch the dirt fall through its own weight and sink. When the water clears to the color of old glass, you dip your clay cup, touch the rim to your lip, and let the tongue read it. The taste carries grit across your teeth with a soft grind. It is not sweet. It is not kind. It is safe. You spit the first mouthful and try again. The second rises smoother, with less sand, more patience. You let it sit on your tongue, then send it down. The belly accepts it with quiet agreement. You pour a little into the small bowl and set it near the hole to cool. A lark in the far air writes one short line and forgets it. Somewhere behind the bend, a rope creaks once, then stops. The trickle tick keeps counting by moments. Barely there, also sure. You fold a square of cloth twice and set it across the cup to catch the worst silt. The cloth takes on a faint gray temper. When you lift it, the weave holds a dust like flour in a sieve. You rinse the cloth with a palm of water, rub it smooth between finger and thumb, and lay it again. The smell from the hole deepens, sour like wet clay jars, steady, simple. You think of a room with cool blocks, a lamp on a shelf, and a bowl that holds a shadow. That thought carries you for the time it takes the hole to brighten again. You sip, you stop, you wait. Your hands work in slow order. You set the cup down, you fold the cloth, you clear a leaf of crust from the edge, you press the chips so they will not lift. The rim grows neat in the way a well-tended tool chest grows neat, each thing looking like itself, each thing with a place. Your knees rest on the sand. It is cold where the crust hid the night and warm where the sun now studies it. You take a corner of linen and dab the wet from your lip. A grain of salt finds your tongue and feels like a small answer to a great question you did not ask. The trickle tick keeps its tiny beat. The sound of a pearl falling through wool. You glance to the low bank and see a fox print new in the moist crust. It is small as your palm. It points away, not toward you. You feel watched, and also not watched, the way you feel in a market when you carry only bread and coins. You turn back to the hole and give it what it needs: time and the light weight of your hand. The upstream cut holds. The water seems to find courage in the shape you made. The color is better now. You fill the cup to the carved line, hold it still, and lift. You share a small measure with the skin. You set the funnel, pour through the cloth, and hear a faint sound of water finding leather, a low, pleased sigh. The skin sways on its rope and settles by your hip. Its weight grows by the weight of your patience. You work in this way for a while. Dig a finger, wait. Pour a finger, wait. Sip a finger, wait. The world narrows to bowl, hole, cloth, cup. It feels like stitching. It feels like sanding a board until it stops leaning against your eye. The trickle tick continues, light as insect feet on a dry reed. The sun climbs. The bank warms and gives off a smell like baked brick. You touch your scarf and bring it forward to guard the neck. You set your cloak's edge over the hole for a count, so the water will not turn hot all at once. Shade changes the taste in a small way. It takes the metal edge down. Your shoulders soften into the rhythm. Fingers curl around the cup, rough with dust. The clay rim kisses the same place each time. A fly comes and tests the damp edge, then moves on when it learns there is nothing sweet here. The trickle tick keeps its small law. You notice the bend has its own mind. If you dig too near the downstream lip, it slumps like a careless bed. So you back the work into the stronger side and wedge a chip in the corner to guide the low run. The pool squares itself, a simple geometry that pleases your hand. You rinse the cloth again and wring it. The water that leaves is gray at first, then nearly clear. You tip a thin line into the bowl of sand where your cup rests, so the base will not scratch. The cup makes a dull note against the wet grains and stops. The trickle tick seems to smile at the sound, then resumes its even talk. By slow degrees, you have enough to allow small kindness. A splash on the back of the neck, a wet finger over a eyebrow's salt, a palm smoothed over wrist where dust cakes into a band. The cool moves through you like a quiet rumor. You do not chase it. You let it come, settle, and fade. The whole offers more, little by little. You take what is fair, and the skin fills to half, then a touch more. You tie the stopper with a flat knot and feel the leather stretch and relax as water finds its level. The trickle tick does not mind your measuring. It counts for itself. You break one square of bread and soften it with 2 drops. The crumb turns gentle without coming apart. You hold it in the cheek while you work. The taste is plain and good. A note of grain, a hint of last night's smoke from the wrap. A goat on the ridge sets a stone moving. It clatters down the bank and lies still. Dust rises and rests on your arm. You brush it away and see the clean line it leaves on skin. The smell of mud fades into the dry smell of the world beyond the bend. Still, down in the small square of water, the trickle tick keeps speaking. You build a marker for those who come behind. 3 stones, then a 4th, then a flat one on top. A low sign that says, "Here is where the bend will share." You pull a thorn branch across the bright part of the bed, so feet will turn before the crust breaks around your work. You read the ground for prints again. The fox has turned uphill. A beetle tracks a new line close to the marker and goes out toward the open pan as if to bless the idea by doing its own work near it. A shadow of a bird passes and leaves the light brighter for the second it is gone. The trickle tick continues like a whispered rule. You wet a strip of cloth and wrap it around the clay cup so it will stay cool in the pack. You oil the stopper of the skin with a thumb so it will not stick when the day grows high. The smell of olive and leather rises, honest and steady. You run a line of water over the staff tip and wipe the mud from it with the hem of the cloak's inside. The wood shows its grain again, clear, simple, a road of its own. Your lips taste of iron and salt and something like lime. You let the tongue live with it instead of fighting it. The trickle tick says there will be more later, slow and sure, not now. You draw the hole's edge clean once more and leave the pool with enough uncovered that a small beak or a careful paw can drink after you. You brush sand over your knee marks until the bank looks like itself again. The low cairn stands as a quiet truth. You lift the pack and settle it. The straps learn your shoulders again and make their gentle rules across your ribs. The skin's weight knocks once against your hip as it finds its place. A cart far off grumbles over a seam in the land and fades to a thought. The trickle tick keeps talking under the cloak edge you left for shade. You step back onto the bright floor. The white bed narrows and runs on to nowhere you can see. You thank it by leaving it behind, not torn up, only touched. The air warms with the hour. The smell of baked salt rises and goes thin. Your sandals read the crust and then choose the firmer ground above. Rope crosses your chest with an easy pull and settles. At your side, the skin's weight has a new honesty. In your ear, the tiny trickle tick remains, no longer from the hole, but living as a small, remembered sound under the day, a patient measure you can carry all the way to the next bend, where pale stone turns and the land might speak again. The white bend stays behind you like a quiet promise, and the memory of cool mud sits in your hands. The day opens wide, and wind lifts over the flats in a steady run. Grit moves close to the ground in thin lines. You tie cloth across your face and pull the knot flat at the ear. The world smells of salt dust and warm stone. Your lips taste of it. You lean into the air and watch it draw small ripples along the sand, like a light brush over grain. The half-full skin bumps your hip, then hangs still, taut by its rope. You choose a shallow hollow and set your staff in as a mark. The ground is firm there, with a crust that holds the weight of a pole. You slide a smooth length of wood into the mark and press it down until it settles. You unroll your canvas and let it fall with its own slow weight. The cloth smells of oil, smoke, and old sun. You stretch one edge into the wind and hold it with your free hand. The canvas strains but holds. The pull speaks through the cloth to your fingers. Your face cloth moves with each gust and lays back again. You plant the second pole and spread the cloth between them. The poles give a little as the gusts test them, then return to shape. You loop guy ropes to the corners and carry them low. The rope fibers bite your palm and warm under the work. You mound sand over small pegs and heel it firm. When the rope takes load, it wakes with a soft hum that travels into the ground. The guy ropes hum a low chord hum along the floor of the desert, steady and kind. Like a thin line drawn with a careful hand, you sit in the new shade and let the air pass through. It is not cool, but it is less hard. Cloth rubs your cheeks. The salt there turns the fabric stiff. You pour a little water onto a fold of linen and clean the grit from lip and tooth. The taste is flat and sure, with a tiny iron at the edge. Bread comes from your pouch with a small sound. It breaks clean in your fingers. You hold a piece in your mouth and let it soften. The wind talks against the canvas and pole. Under all of it, the chord hum runs on. You check each knot the way you check seams on a good shirt. You pull, you settle, you move the peg a hand's width where the sand is tighter. A rope crosses your foot and asks to be moved. You answer by shifting it to a kinder line. A neighbor coughs once from the next shelter and falls quiet. Farther out, A pack animal gives a low sound, wood and rope answering with a small rub. Dust makes a thin coat on your fingers. You brush it away, and your skin shows clean lines. The poles give a little and return again, not arguing, only speaking. The sun climbs, and the air collects heat as a clay bowl collects water. You keep the cloth high where wind must push through it. This makes a low tunnel where your back can rest. You crumble a date into your bread and press the paste with a thumb so it will not flee. The sweet meets salt on your tongue. Both feel honest. A small laugh sits in your chest when a grain of sand finds the last soft part of the date as if it had planned it. Sand finds every pocket. It must have a map. You drink a mouthful measured by the mark on the cup and set the skin down where shadow covers the knot. You oil your lips with a smear from the little jar and work the edge in until the sting goes. The smell of olive settles under the stronger smell of dust. You rinse a corner of cloth and smooth it over your eyes. The weave is cool for a moment, then warm. The wind lifts the canvas and shakes a fine powder across your forearms. It feels like flour, light and dry. You touch the pole and feel the grain under your hand, a thin road you know by touch more than sight. The cord hum keeps to itself, low in the ground, near your ankle bones. You tend your sandals before the heat makes small troubles into large ones. You lift each foot and brush out grit. The leather smells like animal and oil. It is strong, but it wants care. You rub a thin line of salve on the strap where it crosses a hard place. Linen wraps around your ankle with a soft pull. You tie it flat so it will not bite. Your heel rests well against the backing. A lizard clicks under the canvas edge and rides the wind shadow for a while. It goes when a new gust makes the cloth ripple. The cord hum shifts its note and returns to steady. You lay a small trench on the windward side, a shallow scoop to catch the crawling sand. You use the bowl to lift what collects and throw it to the far side where it can be weight. Each throw makes a low hiss where sand meets sand. You keep your water skin tucked into a hollow with a cloth thrown over it. The leather is cool to the touch there. You check the stopper and wipe the rim with a clean strip. Salt from your fingers meets your tongue when you pull the strip through your teeth to free a knot. The taste is sharp and brief. The canvas above knocks once against a pole and then lies quiet again. The hours pass by small tasks rather than names. You rub the pack frame where it squeaks. A little oil, a little patience. You fold a spare cloth and wedge it under the pole's foot so the wood will not grind on stone. You lift the back edge of the canvas to let hot air leave, then lower it when the wind reaches too far. A dog curls in a scrape behind a clay jar and closes its eyes. It opens them when sand moves under its nose, then forgets. Someone hums 2 notes, then stops. Your tongue feels clean from the last small drink. The cord hum remains. A single line written under the day. Around noon, the wind takes on size, but it stays even. It does not throw. It pushes and holds. You lean into it and stand with your feet wide. Cloth across your face tastes of old oil and new dust. Your shoulders and arms learn the slow pull when you shift the ropes. You move like a miller at a calm wheel. Hold, lift, carry, tie, brush, fold, settle. The canvas strains and the poles give a little, then settle back into themselves. When you rest your hand on a guy rope, the hum moves into your palm like a cat settling on a lap and going to sleep. You share a mouthful of water with your hands. You pour a line across the thumb and first knuckle, then bring that line to your lips to taste and count. It runs over cracked places and makes them gentler. You touch a wet finger to the inner wrist and wait for the cool to spread. The skin there smells of salt and dust together. The two smells make a third one that means work done fairly. A cart far away pushes over a hard seam and answers itself with a wooden murmur, then is quiet. The air inside your small shade moves in a long, slow way. The cord hum keeps you honest, not by command, but by company. You check the animal's lines without making noise or fuss. A camel worries at a strap and then lets it be. You press the strap flat with a palm and feel the leather warm, then calm. A small bell on a pack sways once and becomes still. Its sound is a simple circle. A man at the next lean-to coughs and clears his mouth of grit, then drinks from a cup, salt short and careful. You do not look. You know the sound and its story. You brush sand from a wooden bowl and set it mouth down. The wind brings a faint smell of smoke from somewhere far, thin as a thought. The cord hum is clearer for a breath and then hides again under the larger sound of air on cloth. Later, when the sun turns from white to pale gold, you lift the back pole one hand higher so the shade lengthens. The canvas cools to the touch. It no longer stings your fingers when you handle it. You rub the oil jar between your palms until it loosens, then smear a thin line over a rope that began to fray. The fibers darken and look strong again. You take a crumb of bread, press it into date paste so the grit will keep out, and let it sit on your tongue until it is gone. The ground smells more like warm stone now than dust. The day is tired and shows it. The cord hum softens but does not leave. You fold your face cloth down and shake it once to free the heavy grit. The fabric moves like a low wave, then falls quiet on your lap. Salt maps the weave in pale lines that look like roads. You rinse the cloth with 2 careful pours, twist it hard, and lay it over your head to cool. The water runs into your hair and across your neck. The touch is brief and full. You pull the knot close at the nape and sit with your back against the pack. Your eyes rest on the pole's shadow and watch it lean a little more toward evening. The hum in the guy ropes lowers a half note and lingers. You do a last round. Knots, stakes, cloth, skins. You lift the edge of the canvas to look at the trench. The sand has built a small wall there. You move half of it to the downwind side where it can help. Your fingers hold the texture of each tool. Wood smooth, rope rough, cloth soft, stone firm. Your mouth tastes of dust and olive and a hint of iron left from the cup. A quiet goat picks its way along the far edge of camp and stops to face the wind like a small, sturdy sail. The dog behind the jar tilts an ear and does nothing more. The cord hum stays low and even, as if the ground itself were singing under the work. When the light drops, you let the canvas down 1 palm's width and press sand along the bottom seam, so it will not lift in the night. You coil a spare rope in a neat ring and set a small stone at its heart. You oil the pole tips and wipe the cloth with your sleeve. The air keeps its salt dust and warm stone, but it smells gentler now. The harsh notes fade. Your lips taste cleaner after the last small sip. You rub them once and leave them. The hum along the guy ropes thins as the wind eases, then gathers again, low and good, and you settle on the ground with your back to the pack, legs stretched where the shade reaches. The canvas above carries the day's story in small scars and fine dust. You read it without words. Your hands lie open on your thighs, rough and simple. The world holds the steady push of air, the soft give of poles, the honest strain of cloth. The ground, strong and quiet, takes it all. In the fading light, the guy ropes hum their low cord hum along the ground, a single line drawn through sand and stone, holding your small room in place until the night comes close and the day lets go. The wind from yesterday still leans across the flats as a quiet hand you know. You take down the canvas, fold it smooth, and tie it with a short rope. Then lift your pack until the straps settle in their old grooves. Dust smells faintly of salt and warm stone. Your lips taste of it. You reach into the right pocket of your belt pouch and find the small stone you chose at the dry bend. It is smooth and cool, a little oval that fits your fingers. You close your hand, begin to walk, and let your first paces grow long and even. You make a count with the body rather than the mouth. Knees bend, cloth brushes your thighs, sandals hush along the crust and then over fine sand. Your skin dries quick where earlier sweat cooled you. Sun lifts and paints your sleeve pale, then paler still. When the ground tells you your count is met, you move the pebble to the left pocket. The tiny sound is neat and sure, a soft pebble click that does not hurry. It marks a small time inside the wide day, not as a command, but as a friend. The leather strap of the water skin rides your shoulder and then your hip with a slow sway. The skin hums once when the little air inside shifts, then becomes quiet again. The taste of leather and clay lingers from your last measured sip. Powder rises with each push of your foot and lands on your calves like flour. You keep your eyes along the pale lines that lead from ridge to ridge. When your measure is full again, you let your hand find the pouch, feel the cool shape, and pass it back. Pebble click. The sound settles into the space between your ribs like a calm bell. You share the land with presences that do not ask for notice. A cart far off answers the ground with a wooden murmur, then fades. A man behind you clears his throat under cloth and keeps moving. Far to the right, a camel gives one small complaint and returns to silence, its bell still. You smell old wool in your scarf as the sun warms it, and a pinch of oil you rubbed there at dawn. Heat gathers, but the air remains dry enough that your skin sheds it. The pebble sits where you put it, proof of distance that fits in a thumb's worth of stone. You learn to hold the body like a tool. Shoulders settle low, hands hang soft when they are idle. You keep your headcloth close at cheek and ear, where the wind tries to enter. The ground shifts from crust to drift and back. The shoe finds it and stays kind. Your pack frame speaks in a faint wood voice when the sand runs shallow over stone. You ease the strap, tuck a fold of linen under it, and the sound goes away. The count returns, pocket to pocket. Pebble click. Time in a small circle, gentle and clear. The sun lays white on the flats and sets your shadow short. Your sleeve turns from pale to chalky at the forearm, the weave standing out like small rivers in clay. You taste salt at the corner of your mouth and let your tongue read it, then let it be. A thin breeze moves across your face and carries the smell of warm stone. The skin at your wrist is dry and fine. You touch the pebble without moving it. Hold it for a few paces to learn it's cool again, then let it drop. Pebble click, soft as a ring placed on a cloth. Your feet learn a line inside the larger road, a path of firm patches among loose ones. Sand flows off a low bar and shows the glint of quartz like dull glass under milk. A lizard scurries from the shadow of your pack's edge and vanishes under a tuft that looks dead and is not. Above, a slow bird turns, wing whispering the upper air. It decides you are nothing new and lets the circle open wider. Your hand returns to the pouch. The transfer is easy now, not a task, only a touch. Pebble click, the sound the day seems to want. You pause once to tie your sandal where the thong has crawled. The leather smells simple and good, like work done well. You brush the grit from under your heel with a quick handful of sand and a swallow of water set on the skin. Then tie the strap flat and true. A goat far off picks its way across a low ridge and sends a pebble rolling. It clicks twice, then rests. The ground tastes slightly of lime in the dry air when your mouth opens for the next sip. Your count resumes, and with it, the soft reply. Pebble click. The rhythm stays low and kind. By midday, the world feels like a bright bowl turned over your head. Heat presses without story. You fold a strip of cloth and lay it under your cap, and the damp there cools for a little while. Your palms grow smooth from the staff and the pouch, not because of ease, but because you do the same small motions without rush. Dust lifts, dust settles. You set your gaze on a pale spine where the land rises, a simple aim that holds you straight. You reach the number again, touch the stone, and move it. Pebble click. The sound is the same each time, which is its gift. You think of rooms that hold water and rooms that hold grain, and how both teach patience. You imagine a cool shade like the lean-to, folded and tied, waiting under the next low hill. You imagine a bowl of clay set on sand, a line of shadow that shrinks, and a cup that takes its share and no more. Taste, smell, touch, plain and close. The mind quiets when the work is small and honest. A companion to your left hums 3 notes and forgets them. The road permits it. Your hand finds the pouch once more. Pebble click, quiet, precise, almost shy. The march gathers its own mercy when you do not ask it to be shorter. You keep to your count, and the count keeps to you. Your sleeve is now almost white from salt and dust. When you brush it, the cloth leaves a faint powder on your fingers that tastes of the day. The horizon wavers like warm glass, then holds again. Your skin is a map of where the wind has gone. When the number returns, it brings its little gate with it. Pocket to pocket. Pebble click. The sound travels no farther than your belt and still manages to set the hour where it belongs. Toward afternoon, the flats lift into long ribs, and the ribs show shadows like narrow lanes. The ground smells softer here, less sharp, as if sand had learned to rest a little. Your thighs warm and cool in turns as clouds thin to nothing and return as pale strings. A cart track crosses your line, its ruts shallow and long. You step down and up and do not argue with it. The skin knocks once against your side and then rides easy. When the old count asks for a reply, you give it. Pebble click. The day folds its edge a little, and you do not hurry it. You pass a wind-polished rock shaped like a knee and decide it will be your stop. You draw a mark in the sand beside it with your staff, a small quarter circle. Then set your pack upon the knee stone to rest the frame. The world is still large, but your room is now as small as a cup. You take a slow drink by the measure line and eat 2 bites of bread. The bread is dry and clean. A smear of fig turns kind in the mouth. You listen for anything that needs you and hear only the hush of the open. The pebble waits where you left it, cool as ever. When you rise and lift the pack, you return it to the starting pocket, so the next part will have its own road. You move on, and after your count, the sound answers again, soft and sure, pebble click, and the day continues in that gentle time. The pebble's quiet time still sits in your pouch, and your knees remember the long count from the last stretch. You come to the lee of a soft dune where the wind loses its teeth and the sand holds still. You set down the pack and loosen the cloth at your brow. Salt dries on your lips. The air smells like warm stone and old sun. You kneel and press a hand into the sand. The skin of your palm feels cool at first, then warm as the ground returns your touch. Around you, the land is wide and pale. You choose 3 stones, simple and true. You test each stone as if it were a tool. One fits the whole of your hand, flat on one face and rough on the other. The second is thick and sure, a small loaf of rock dust and grain. The third is a thin lid, smooth on top, cool as a clay bowl rim in morning shade. Your hands smell of rock dust, dry and direct. Your mouth keeps the taste of old bread from a bite taken earlier, plain and kind on the tongue. You wipe your fingers on the hem of your cloth and feel the weave turn gritty. You lay the first stone where the dune's curve makes a pocket from the wind. You press it down, firm and steady, rocking it until the sand finds all its edges. Sand slides back into shape, filling little gaps, patient as water, but dry. A few grains whisper under your nails. You place both palms on the stone and lean. It settles with the sound of weight finding home, mild and low. Stone set, quiet and sure. The small sound is a promise that the base has chosen to stay. You lift the second stone and hold it against your chest for a breath-long while, letting your arms learn its weight. Dust rolls off in a pale veil and brushes your cheek. The sun paints your sleeve chalk white where salt has dried. When you rub it, a soft powder comes away and tastes faintly of the day. You lower the second stone onto the first and slide it until the faces agree. The two hold each other like good neighbors. You press their seam with the heel of your hand. Again the hush of sand returning. Again the mild stone set, sure as a nod. You take out the thin lid and rub its edge with a strip of dampened cloth so grit will not trick the fit. The cloth smells like leather and water. It leaves a dark line that dries almost at once. You set the lid on top and turn it a finger width at a time, marking a small arrow toward the far ridge. Your staff lies beside you, warm wood against warm sand. You use its end to draw a short line. Nothing bold, just a hint. When the top stone finds its place, it gives the slightest reply, a soft tick of grain and weight. Stone set. The motif carries through the still air. You stand and step back, one, then another, to let your eyes read the cairn as a sailor reads a light. The 3 stones sit small and honest against the pale slope. A goat far off tests a thorn and moves on. Someone behind the next rise coughs once and is quiet again. A camel bell answers the wind with a single dull note and falls still. You wet a thumb and press it to the lid's face, then smooth it dry, leaving a smudged shine where the sun can touch. The air tastes a little like iron from the last sip that brushed your lip. The cairn glows just enough to be known. You gather your tools the way you always do, staff to hand, pouch tied flat, rope coiled in one ring so it will not cling to thorn. Your water skin rides your shoulder. The leather creaks once, and then is silent. You lift the pack and feel it settle into its old grooves, not harsh, only present. The sand at your knees has forgotten your touch already. You set your line toward the next low place where a second cairn will belong. You move into the light with a slow, even pace, and the wind lifts a little edge of your shawl with a quiet cloth rustle that soon lies down. Across a short stretch of hardpan, you find 3 more stones. One is dark and holds the cool of night under its crust. One smells faintly of salt when you wet a finger and touch it. One is almost round, but not so round it will flee. You build again on the lee, careful as before, nothing forced. Sand flows, fills, holds. When the third stone meets the second, There it is, stone set, mild and certain, like the last word in a simple prayer. A beetle knocks once at the base and finds another route. Your mouth tastes of dust and fig. Both tastes agree to travel with you. You eat a thumb-sized piece of bread in the shade of the dune and let it soften against the roof of your mouth. A thin line of water from your cup follows it and cuts the grit. You smell wool from your scarf and a thin smoke far off where someone tends a small fire without flame. A lizard slides over your footprints and leaves its own, neat and clean. You fold the cup and set it away. You test the cairn with 2 fingers and a little weight. It speaks only once, stone set, and then it is quiet. The sound stays in your ear like a thread you carry forward. The land opens a little and then closes again, as if the dunes were slow waves asleep in the heat. You walk the soft valleys and choose a third lee where wind cannot argue. There the sand is fine like ground flour, and it flows around your ankles with a slow welcome. You press 1 stone down and feel it tilt. You lift, rake the bed with your staff, and try again. You do not force. You wait for the sand to teach you its way. When it finally holds, the weight sinks an inch and stops. The note is lower here, almost a sigh. Stone set, quiet and sure, like a door closed with care. You scratch a single mark with the staff toward the next ridge and tuck a twig beside the base to point the line through a small gap. The twig dries in the heat and makes a faint crackle. You smooth the top with the flat of your palm. Your skin smells of oil and dust from the salve and the road. A ring of sweat grows at your collar and dries again when the wind returns. You listen for the camp behind you and take comfort in what you hear. A pack rope answers a knot. A jar mouth clicks against a bowl. A man hums 2 notes and forgets them. Your little stacks will speak for you when no one else can. You raise your cloth to shade your eyes and count a slow 100 to give the cairn time to settle into the dune's memory. The sun leans and begins to notice the long world again. Shadows stretch and soften the ground. You bite the last corner of bread and let it rest on your tongue until it is gone. It tastes of wheat and hands and a clean oven. You wash your mouth with a finger dipped in the skin and touch that finger to your wrist where the pulse runs low. The cool is brief and real. When you turn to go, the top stone of the first cairn you built catches the light and blinks once. Small and brave, you move forward along your shallow road, leaving these little signs as if you were laying out bowls for a guest who will arrive with quiet feet. The desert does not read, but you stack the words anyway. It feels polite to leave a note. A slow wind slides along the flanks of the dunes and sounds like cloth moving across a floor. You keep your pace kind and your eyes soft. Each time you lift the next stone and press it down, the same answer returns. Stone set, mild, sure, enough. When evening comes, the cairns stand behind you like steady lanterns with no fire, only shape and memory. Their small weight sits in the sand, their top smooth under your hand, their sound held low in your ear, gentle and certain, until the day thins and the wind forgets to speak. The little stacks behind you keep their shape in the low wind, and their quiet weight follows you in memory more than sight. The ground opens and slowly lowers, and a thin smell comes under the hot air. Not dust, not stone, something rounder and bright. It touches the back of your throat and sits there like clean salt. Cloth warms at your neck and then cools as the air turns. Far off, a soft surf hush comes and goes, gentle as sleeping, never asking for you, only letting you know. A darker line shows on the horizon where the sky finds the long edge of the world. Tamarisk takes root in the shallow hollows, pale stems and fine leaves holding a shy green. You walk to one and press your palm to its narrow bark. Resin clings a little, and your hand smells warm and sharp. Leaves lift and settle with a sound like thin cloth brushed by a kind hand. In that light shade, even the heat feels like it can listen. Through it all, the surf hush reaches you in little threads, easing in and easing out. You take the cup from the pouch and rest it in your palm, and the clay gives back a bit of cool from night that it still carries. Leather rim smells faintly of oil. A quiet taste of tannin lives in it. You pour the last mouthful to make your lips soft and your tongue calm. The swallow is small. It settles your throat like a smooth stone in a bowl. You turn the cup upside down for a moment and wait, then wipe it with a cloth and fold it flat again. The wind moves the tamarisk leaves once more, and the surf hush drifts through the empty spaces between their hairs. Sand changes under your sandals from flour to grit to the firm shine of old pans. Your foot learns each kind without hurry. Tiny shells show in the ground like dull beads, and they snap under the thin soles with a clean sound that ends at once. The air tastes brighter here, less chalk, more edge. Wings pass overhead without rush, only a slow cut through the high light. Their shadow cool across your cheek for a heartbeat, and gone. The hush from far off comes back again, longer now. The slow surf hush finding your ears and then letting them rest. You move with others and do not trouble them. A neighbor clears his throat under cloth and keeps walking. A pack rope ticks against a jar neck and then goes quiet as the jar settles. Behind a dune's lip, a goat stirs dry brush and pauses, nose in the air, then turns away. The sound of feet on sand evens out, becomes one thing rather than many. Sweat dries fast on your forearms, leaving a thin salt that your tongue knows when you brush your wrist without thinking. Past all these small signs flickers that far sound, the surf hush, steady as a hand that never presses. Where the land dips, you rest your pack against a tamarisk trunk and sit on warm sand that gives a little, then holds you. Bread from your wrap is hard and clean. You soften it with a thumb of fig, and the sweet arrives slow and honest. A thread of smoke from a hidden fire reaches you, thin as a hair, smelling of wood and wet reeds. The shade lies like a folded cloth at your shoulder. You lie your headcloth open on your knees so it can lose its heat. When you lift your eyes, the horizon has drawn a clearer edge, and beyond it you feel the long weight of water. The surf hush answers just once, then rests. You check little things because they are friendly to check. You rub a drop of oil into the leather where it rides your collarbone. You retie the headcloth so it lies smooth along the cheek and does not rasp. You fold the spare strip and set it under the pack strap to quiet it. You lift the skins and feel their lightness, a truth you already knew. Your hands smell of oil and dust, and a breath of green from the leaves. High above, a bird turns and lets one feather sing the air. Below, the old motif returns, softer than before, that patient surf hush somewhere out beyond the sand. The road teaches your mouth to wait. You do not think of cups, only of the way the jaw sits easy when you do not swallow. Your tongue finds a small seam of copper at the lip and lets it be. The sun presses your shoulders like a warm board. Your cloth takes the weight and shares it along your back. Stone shows through the sand in broad plates and then hides again. In the quiet, you hear beetles write shallow lines near your feet, and in the deeper quiet, you hear it once more, the far surf. Hush. Not a call, only a long permission. After a while, the smell changes again, simple and sure, as if the world had washed its hands. The wind that crosses the flats carries the clean breath of tamarisk and something wider below it, a broad cool that is not here yet and still touches you. A faint green shows at the edge of a low basin, not much, only a stain in the pail. You lean into it as you walk because your body wants to meet it halfway. The straps on your shoulders give one small protest and then settle. The hush lengthens, gentle and even, like a cloth drawn over a bowl. Surf hush. And for a moment you feel the curve of that bowl under the land. You lift your staff and let its tip read the ground. It finds crust, it finds drift, it finds a patch where salt shines like ground glass. The world smells cleaner as the sun tilts. Even the dust changes from bitter to plain. Someone far to your left laughs once without sound, more a shape of the face than anything else, then forgets the reason and keeps on. A small crab track crosses the hardpan in a tidy stitch, then vanishes under a clod. You press your lips with a wet thumb and keep moving. In the wide space between dunes, the low surf hush comes again and folds itself away. You mark the line for those behind you without fuss. A bit of cloth tied to a twig points toward the darker band ahead. A shell set upright on a lump of clay becomes a tiny white eye in the glare. You brush the marks with your palm to make them plain, and then let the wind decide what to keep. Your hands smell of salt dust and the soft sweetness of the fig you ate earlier. The staff rides your shoulder like a lazy oar. The air cools enough to lift the hair along your forearm. Out beyond sight, the old sound rolls like slow sleep, surf hush, and then is gone again, leaving the quiet hole. You climb a last low rise and pause, not to claim anything, only to allow the body a small, steady joy. The pack rests against your spine, neither kind nor cruel, only there. Your skin feels the change in the wind before your eyes can read it. It carries green, and it carries the wide salt that settles at the teeth with a clean taste. Birds pass over with more purpose now, wing over emptiness that is not empty anymore. You let your shoulders fall, you loosen your jaw. You look at the long, pale line where land ends without drama. And in the space that follows, the far sound folds open and closed with the tender weight of sleep, soft surf hush, low and even, until the moment holds still like a hand on cool stone. The far surf hush stays low in your ear as the land dips toward a square of shade and stone. A ring of old blocks circles a dark mouth, and the air around it feels cooler, as if night had paused there and waited for you. Palms lean without hurry. Their fronds whisper a dry, easy sound. The smell is new and kind. Damp stone, wet wood, a little rope tar, layered over dust and sun. You touch the curb with the flat of your hand and feel a faint chill rise from below. Your shoulders ease. Your tongue steadies. The pulley hangs from a wood frame that has seen long weather, and its pin is smooth as bone. You lift the bucket, plain staves bound with a band of iron, and tie the worn cord through its ear. The cord is rough and strong, and its fibers leave a soft rasp across your palm. You lean your weight on the curb and lower slowly, hand over hand, watching the line pass through your fingers. Cool rises from the shaft in little breaths of earth air, clean and still. Stone inside the well smells like soaked clay pots on a quiet kitchen shelf. The first turn of the pulley speaks for itself, a long, gentle rope squeak that finds the shade and settles there. You let the sound be your company as the bucket goes down. You rest a small peg between your teeth while you feed the line, and the wood tastes dry, old, and harmless. The weight finds depth, grows lighter for a moment, then heavier again as the bucket mouths the water. You hear the low, hollow touch, a soft kiss against a still face. In the dark, a drop falls and answers another. You pay out a little more to be sure, then twist the cord once on the curb to hold it. Your hands keep the clean smell of hemp and tar. A bird crosses the bright mouth of the well and leaves a round scrap of shade on your cheek, there and gone. Below, the water settles to silence. You raise one hand and then the other, slow and even, feeling the pull wake the rope and the frame. The cord presses its grain into your skin and warms as it rubs. The pulley speaks again, longer this time, a patient, low rope squeak that stretches and fades. A goat behind the palm fence shifts its hooves and tests a thorn. It loses interest and swallows the quiet whole. Someone beyond the wall coughs once, small and tired, and a clay lid clicks gently back into place. You set your feet firm on the sand that has drifted into the yard. The line answers your care by climbing inch by inch. When the bucket shows, first the iron band, then wet wood bright like fresh bark, you draw it to the curb and set it down with both hands. The air that rises has a sweet dust in it, like rain on a hot street, only softer. The water looks cloudy at first, pale with tiny flour. You lay a clean square of cloth over a bowl and pour slow, letting the cloth drink what should not pass. The cloth smells faintly of soapwort and sun. It holds the silt and smiles at its work. Through it, the stream comes clear and kind, bright as a thought that takes its time. Around you, the shade deepens and feels generous. You rinse your mouth, not hurrying, letting the cool ride across teeth and tongue and stay for a long count. The bowl rim is smooth under your thumb, and the taste is clean with a hint of stone. A drop runs from your chin to your collar and leaves a small dark coin on the cloth. You wet the head cloth and press it to the back of your neck, and the skin there sighs without sound. The goat breathes through its nose at the fence and walks away, bored with plenty. Above, palm shade shifts a little, and light quivers on the curb like scaled fish in a sleep pond. The pulley holds still, its quiet now complete. You line your skins on the sand, mouths wide, leather soft from use and care. You rub a touch of oil into the neck of each so they will seal. The oil smells like crushed fruit and warm dust. You hold the first skin open with your knee and pour from the bowl, steady as stacking coins. The leather drinks before you do, which seems fair for once, and you allow yourself the smallest smile at that. When a skin swells, you fold and tie, then knot again, fingers sure from many mornings. The knots sit like small stones you can trust to stay. The pulley wants another turn. You give it one. The line moves with that same long rope squeak, almost friendly now because you have learned its voice. You lower and raise, and the work settles into your shoulders like a cloak. On the far side of the yard, a child's bare heel scuffs sand and finds stillness again. A clay jar nudges another and tells a tiny ring. From the well mouth, cool air keeps rising, shy as smoke in reverse. You pour, strain, and pour again until the skins lie round and ready, quiet as sleeping dogs. You share a bowl with a careful hand at the trough. A mule noses the surface and drinks, slow and neat, with a sound like cloth washed in a basin. Its breath carries hay and clean sweat, and something like good wood. You save a palmful for your feet and wash away thin mud left by the yard. Skin smells of oil and dust. The water makes it new without asking for thanks. In the far distance, the surf hush folds once and rests. You fold the trough cloth and set it to dry on a peg. You check the pulley for tiredness and find a small shine on the pin where it has run dry. You touch it with a drop of oil and spin the wheel once with a finger. The wood gives a soft, grateful purr and goes still. You lay a thin splice on the cord where fibers have risen. A strip of linen binds it flat. The knot pressed small so it will not catch. Your staff leans against the frame, its grain warm to your palm when you test its balance. You scratch a short mark in the curb with the tip, not a claim, just a note that the day passed here and was gentle. You sit with your back to the well and eat a piece of bread with a smear of date, soft and honest on the tongue. The crust is dry and clean. The sweetness knows where to go. A tiny ant patrols the line of shade and chooses a crumb the size of a grain. It wrestles, considers, and changes its plan. A good lesson. Your hands rest open on your knees, and the smell of rope and wood clings to them in a way that feels familiar and right. A jar lid lifts, settles, and finds its seat with a sound like a small answer. When you rise, the skins are ready to travel. You coil the spare cord in a neat ring and tie it with a simple loop. You slide the water across a cloth to soften the weight against your shoulder. The leather cools your neck through your tunic and warms there without haste. You look once into the well's dark circle and thank the shade with your stillness. A lizard peeks from between two stones, counts you from one eye, and slips back to its chapter of heat and rest. You draw one last bucket to leave the curb wet for whoever comes next. The pulley sings its careful, slow rope squeak, more whisper than sound now that oil lives where it should. The bucket rises with a drip that becomes a brief chain on the stone. You pour half to the trough, half to the dust where feet pass, and the smell that rises is soft and dear, a scent that remembers gardens. You lay the bucket rim down so wind will not play with it. The rope hangs in an easy curve, worked but happy. The yard returns to its own quiet shape as you shoulder the load. The palm tips shift a little and decide they have already moved enough for the day. Someone in the far shade mutters a word to no one and falls silent. The mule shakes its ears once and forgets the need. You step beyond the wall of stone and brush and feel air from the open world slip along your jaw. The skins sway, full and honest. The well behind you holds its cool, and it's dark, the way a good room holds its order. You pause on the hard patch beyond the palms and listen, not for news, only for balance. The day stands wide and white, but your mouth is calm, and your hands are sure. Rope grain stays in your palms like a map of simple work. Clearwater sits in leather and waits. Far off, under the bright, the sea lays down its slow music and is patient with you. And behind your shoulder, just at the edge of hearing, the old frame gives one last friendly answer as it settles. The mild, even rope squeak easing into the heat, until it is part of the yard, and the yard is part of the day. The shade from the palms holds the yard in a cool hand as you leave the well and cross to the open sand. A low wall of stones makes a corner from wind. A ring of ash tells you where fires have sat before. You lay the skins down, set a peg in the packed ground, and draw a short line to a post. The wood meets earth with a small, steady answer, mild and sure. You feel the grain of the stake under your knuckles and smell rope tar, smoke, and damp stone still living on your sleeves. The line tightens, and the peg settles, giving that gentle peg thud that says, the day has begun to rest. You pour water into a shallow bowl and cup it to your face. Salt lifts from skin. Grit loosens and leaves your lips clean. The water smells of clay and clear rock. It tastes simple and kind. You wet a cloth and pass it along your brow and the hinge of your jaw, then down the back of your neck where sun sat all day. The cloth holds cool for a moment, then gives it back. A breeze moves the fire smoke in a thin ribbon that does not sting. Near the post, the line draws again as it settles, and the peg answers with that mild peg thud. Softer now. You sit and clean your feet as if they are tools you respect. A handful of water and a small circle of sand lift the crust from heel and toe. Skin smells of oil and dust. Cracked places soften under your touch. You warm a finger with a little oil, then smooth it into the sore lines until they shine. Linen wraps fold kind over hot bone. Knots lie flat where they should. A neighbor beyond the low wall coughs once and is quiet. The day's noise presses far away, and close to your hands lives only the small work of care. The rope gives a whisper, and the peg holds with that almost silent peg thud, the sound of a tent choosing stillness. You set a small pot on a few coals, lay in a splash of water, and crumble bread into it with dates torn small. The spoon is wood worn to your palm. It leaves a round rasp on the pot that is not harsh. Steam rises with a sweet edge, warm and brown. You add a pinch of salt and wait without worry. Heat works slow, and slow is good. Smoke from the fire smells thin and good, never pushing. When the porridge thickens, it sits as if it has always been this way, patient and ready. A low wing passes overhead and keeps its own road toward the dusk. You eat with the bowl nested in a cloth, so it does not burn your fingers. The porridge is soft and kind. Dates wake a small sweetness at the tongue and then settle. You chew without hurry, and the heat of the food spreads down the chest and into the belly like a lamp under a table. Across the yard, a mule scrapes wood with hoof, then forgets why. A rat tests the edge of a reed mat near the store jar and decides to look elsewhere. Your spoon rests on the rim. The grain of the bowl is smooth where many hands have polished it. The last mouthful tastes of ash and honey, a plain mix that suits the hour. You rinse the bowl, empty the gray water into the ash, and set the pot upside down to dry. Sand under your knees is warm on the surface and cool as soon as you turn it. You oil the leather of your sandals where it rubbed bone, small circles until the dull spots wake. Straps lie straight. Holes meet the right pegs. You coil a spare rope into a flat ring and slide it under the jar, a habit that keeps order. The skins stand close, necks tied and tucked, cool to the touch. A goat beyond the fence works a bush and noses the evening air. Behind you, the post leans into the line and gives a satisfied peg thud, the camp's low heart. You shake your cloak and find the dry side with your fingers. It smells of sun, dust, and a little smoke from the day's fires. You fold it neat and set the folded edge up to guard it from sand. Your head will rest on that clean fold later. For now, you lay the cloak beside the line so it keeps company with the skins. You rub your hands together to warm the oil in them, then press your palms to your calves and knees, easing the long fibers that carried you. The staff lies across your lap, smooth and honest. Far away, the sea lays a low hush along the shore and never asks anything of you. You walk the small square of camp and mend what needs mending. A corner of canvas sags. You tie it higher with a short loop and a simple knot. The loop slides into place and stays, a quiet skill that pleases without noise. You brush sand from the lip of a bowl and from the top of the jar lid, tiny chores that make the place feel held. A neighbor pulls a blanket closer and turns once on reed bedding. The sound is no more than an idea of sound. The smoke line thins as the coals settle. You look once at the post, and the rope answers your eye with a final little peg thud, as if it too is done. You measure out a few swallows of water and share them with your mouth, like coins given with care. The skin is cool and smooth. The drink is clear with a hint of stone. You wet your lips and teeth and hold some under your tongue until the mouth feels new. A crumb of bread left from the bowl tastes better than it should, which seems fair after a day like this. You set the cup upside down on the cloth and let the last drop choose its way. Smoke fades to scent alone. The sand at your hip flows when you touch it and then makes a clean line again, as if the day is writing itself closed. You lie down with your head on the dry fold of cloak. Cloth gives under the weight and then holds. Its weave presses a small, kind pattern at your temple. The ground is flat where you smoothed it, a quiet fact that comforts more than talk could. The air carries salt and palm and a little char. Your feet feel cool oil under linen. The ache they had is not gone, only softer and willing. A gull calls once past the dark and then lets the night take the last word. You pull one corner of the cloak towards your chin and let the body find its stillness. The camp keeps itself. A jar settles its lid with a round, dull kiss. The mule shakes dust from its ears and sighs into hay without fuss. A child turns in sleep beyond the wall. A mother's hand answers with a fold of cloth, nothing more. Stars show where the canvas stops, small and plain. Your water stands. Your rope rings lie true. Your staff waits. The peg in the sand holds the line, and the line holds the small world you made here. As the night becomes large and easy, the post shifts a finger's width, the cord eases, and the ground accepts it. That mild peg thud settles through the cloth and into your bones, steady and low, until the sound is only a shape in the dark, and the shape is only rest.